Easy.
See, the meeting's being recorded. That's good. Neil, can you hear me?
No.
Okay. Well, then I won't speak.
Oh, I mean, yes,
Oh,
yeah.
there you go. Shucks. Looks like the room's pretty well attended. A lot of people in there. So if I miss somebody raising their hand or whatever, please feel free to point it out.
Mike,
Yes,
you turn the volume up a little bit.
sure. Let me see if I can do that. I'm not sure. I'll just get my microphone. Is this any better?
A little bit, might be on this end.
Alright.
Yeah, Mike, you sound good to me, so I think the room needs to turn up the volume.
Okay. Well,
Hannah, you sound loud and clear.
no, can't help that too much. So I'll speak as loudly as my voice will hold up for. So, all right, it's a little after 7, so we've got the technical things I think lined up. Rob, everything looks good on your end for the setup for AB. For
I
the,
think, yeah, I think we're good to go.
Cable 8 should be recording this. Okay, so let me get my note here for opening the meeting. Like to open the meeting for the Conservation Commission for April 29th, 2024 with a couple of policy announcements. There are new changes as of last week. There has been a policy enacted effective immediately by the selectmen based on some issues that they've had in the recent past with some of the meetings. And that policy is that there will no longer be, and I'll read this, try and read this accurately, Zoom participation by anyone who is not a applicant, member of the Conservation Commission, or consultant that has been approved. So the public can view the meetings remotely via Cable 8, but there will be no participation enabled with the public, general public. They need to attend the meeting in person, which is always an option if they wish to participate by speaking and so forth. But this is a change that's been enacted by the selectmen as of last week. So for all boards in town, not just the Conservation Commission. We also will be making a minor change still needed on the Concom webpage. I noticed today it does still say under contact information, Hannah, that their Zoom is option of meeting, so we should delete that prompto. But that I think the town has put on that their main website that the that this change has been going to place. They may not have been 100% clear on it. I'm not sure, but hopefully the word will get out to people that were participating in the past via Zoom and want to participate in meetings, that's the way they need to do it, either in person or do Cable 8 streaming, as we are set up to do tonight. Also, as per town council / open meeting law, with the continuation of the extension by the state, not continuation, extension, the yet to be officially continued beyond 2025, we can still do remote meetings in with Zoom access not being eliminated for participants that are authorized and or members of the public body, as the council calls it. But we do need to announce at the beginning of the meeting, anyone who is attending virtually, remotely on the commission, which is myself today, and Noelle, we have not heard from, but she may come on. Everyone else is present in the room for the commission. So if Noelle comes on online, I will, hopefully somebody will point that out to me so I don't miss it, and I'll announce that officially as well. Also, all votes must be done by roll call. So we've been doing that more or less. I've been saying it and it's been typed in the minutes that way, but we'll make sure we officially ask for names to vote each one instead of just voice votes, and acknowledging that they've all been unanimous. So that's not been an issue, but I just want to make sure we're in line with that. I'd also like to take a moment personally to thank our Concom interns, both Kaya Sahim, pronounce it for me if you would, Kaya.
Shaheen.
Say it again, you broke up.
Shaheen.
Shahim, sorry. Shaheen, Kaya, and Claudia Decker also. Kaya is going to continue interning through the summer part-time as his schedule permits, and that we're grateful for. And Claudia is going through her last 2 weeks or so she probably won't be at the next meeting as a intern participating. And we want to thank her for all of her work in the last several months, and we've really enjoyed having you on board and invite you to, if your opportunity arises and you're interested in returning potentially, we can work something out down the road as your school schedule and other things that permit. Certainly glad you got some experience and hopefully you enjoyed it as well. If you want to take a second and either of you and say anything, that's want to give you an opportunity. You're very silent during the meetings.
Thank you for having us. Been a good time.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you very much.
I want to acknowledge that. Okay, moving right along. We have first on the agenda, the hearing for a notice of intent for off of Lake Street, Prospect Street, Prospect Hill Village. Construction of a 156 unit townhouse development, which will impact bordering vegetated wetland, bank, land under water bodies and waterways, bordering land subject to flooding and riverfront area. Applicant Louis Petrozzi, Wall Street Development Corporation, and Representative Paul McManus. Is Paul in the room and or Lou? I can't tell from all the bodies there, but.
Lou is in the room.
Lou Petrozzi for Wall Street Development,
Okay, great. Thank you, Jim. Welcome. gentlemen.
present and accounted for.
So Lou, I'd like you to provide a fairly brief overview since this is the first time we are hearing this project in any form. And then if the commission has any initial questions that may help formulate the process going down the road, which I'm sure will be a very involved process, we will be entertaining those. And then that's pretty much, I think, what the goal should be for tonight. Are you prepared to provide that overview?
Yes, great. Thank you very much. It was my intention to, since this is the first hearing, where testimony will be given, I think, and given the history of the property and the previous project, you know, some of it, I don't know who was on the commission previously, but yes, we'll go over a brief summary and then turn it over to questions from the commission or the board. But basically speaking, I don't know if all you folks can see this. This is a 70-acre site located at the corner of Lake Street and Prospect Street. Highlighted in green is the area that is considered upland, area green and white. What's highlighted in blue are the vegetated wetlands that have been identified on the site. Keeping in mind that this project was the subject of a subdivision application going back a couple of years. Commission had reviewed that. We've run into a disagreement over certain aspects of the project. But most of the information is in the file relative to the BBW and that sort of thing. What you see here on the plan highlighted in pink is an area of approximately 20 acres that's owned by the town. It's owned by the town as conservation land. And extending in red is an old railway that is currently owned by Wall Street, which is reserved for a potential sewer extension out to Blackmar Street. The project, as mentioned, calls for 156 townhouse development on the site located in that area. That requires or is proposed that we cross a perennial stream at this location. And we are not, other than the area that's required to be filled, I think it's about 600 square feet for that wetland crossing. We are not altering any other wetland resource areas on the site, strictly buffer zone. Previously, just for the benefit of the people on the commission that might not be part of the process, previously, there was a disagreement with the area within the placement of detention basins within the 100-foot riparian zone. Those have since been moved out of the 100-foot riparian zone and are in the outer riparian zone for the perennial stream. But the crossing remains in the same place. We consider it an essential location to access the upland portion of the site. We do provide a secondary access off of Prospect Street that's located on the northerly property line. And we do, at this time, propose a second, an emergency access out to Lakeview Avenue. That's subject to the discretion of the public safety officials, depending on whether they actually want that to happen. But basically speaking, it's really mostly a buffer zone project. The planning board has opened a hearing on the special permit which is required for this type of development. We're currently in the peer review process with BSC, who is reviewing the stormwater management on the site. They have provided one review. We're in the process of revising plans to address their comments. And then the commission, I would presume, would retain BSC to review any wetland issues over and above what was not previously dealt with during the subdivision process. My understanding that all of the delineated wetland has been agreed upon. So there are a couple of issues that might come up other than that relative to the crossing of the perennial stream. And that's pretty much it. We're it's just strictly a buffer zone project for the most part.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. Any questions initially or reactions from the commission? I know we received a lot of information on the portal just recently, even though some of this was provided earlier on, chronologically earlier on, maybe a month or so ago, but because we hadn't had official notice for an intent and a hearing scheduled, we didn't have that made available to us. So there's quite a bit of information. This one set of information I see has 56 pages alone, none of which I have reviewed yet in any depth. In answer to your comment or response to your comment, Lou, I think it is reasonable that we would retain BSC based on their experience with the previous project you had been in process with us on earlier, and it crossed through some of the same areas, including that crossing. So it would be, I think, prudent for us and a good use of resources as well as expertise to have Matt Burns and company take a look at this proposed information and come back to us with a proposal for a scope of work and magnitude of cost that you would be presented with, obviously, as the person putting the bill, and we would be able to see that that includes incorporating information that we have previously gathered, delineations and so forth. So we're using the maximum amount of information that's agreed upon and relevant from the previous project where it's appropriate.
Thank you.
Commission members, anybody have any initial comments, thoughts, questions?
Not as yet. I've started to review it, but haven't got very deep.
Understand.
Okay. Just to ask, make sure you have the opportunity if something comes up quickly. I think the next most prudent thing to do is just continue with that at this point in time, unless you have anything else to add, Lou, or Paul does.
No, Mr. Chairman, we just, as you had said, look for the commission to prepare a proposal for a peer review. And hopefully we can get BSC working on the review of the notice of intent as quickly as possible, and parallel those efforts with the planning board's review as well.
Yeah, we certainly will keep in close touch with the planning board as they move forward, as we always do with these large projects where, especially we're using BSC for both the planning and the Concom. Is Matt in the room? I can't tell.
Yes,
Matt,
present.
could you provide input on your schedule and timing for preparing a proposal for this project?
Yeah, I'm certainly available to put together a proposal in the next week or so.
Okay.
But Mr. Chairman, may I say one thing?
Sure.
That it's our intention to have a second notice of intent that will be filed for the construction of the sewer extension force main. Thought it was prudent to have to separate that part of the project since it hasn't been reviewed before. There are additional wetland areas that have not been reviewed by BSC as part of the previous process. So we're going to separate that work out into a second notice of intent, and you'll be receiving plans strictly for that particular type of work.
Okay, I'm not sure that I've ever been involved in a site project, development project, which has had two notices of intent filed on the same physical property, even though they are, as you're trying to mention here, a different scope of work, sewer line, force main versus a lot of the other stuff. But Neil, you're the longest tenured person there. Has this ever come up in your tenure that you know of?
No,
I'm not sure if it's legal. I'm not saying it's not. I'm certainly not.
well, all the impacts would be considered under one.
Right, so when you have.
They'd be cumulative to the property.
Sure, we can have it accumulated, but it's sort of like a phase. This is one phase and the sewer project will be a second phase.
All the impacts,
Right.
all the wetland impacts would be considered. as well.
Absolutely, no problem.
Okay, so now having said that, Lou, as you have requested that we move along with the notice of intents and so forth, when do you plan on having that notice of intent available? Because that would require another proposal from Matt to review the wetlands impacts from the forest main. So we don't want to get ahead of ourselves on that.
Right now, the engineer is preparing a plan and profile of the sewer. We've got it all surveyed, the flags are located, so it should be within the next 30 days that we've been having that filed.
Okay, and Matt, just same question back to you. Is that something that you can handle, that additional notice of intent?
Yes,
Okay. All right, so we'll realize that this, while we may have information exchanging about the both Matt's response for the initial notice of intent, but we'll have a subsequent one coming up. We'll just keep that in mind and realize that there'll be, at this point in time, I will probably just double check with MACC and or our legal counsel, make sure that since this is a unique request for two notice of intents to anybody's knowledge here, that we're going through all the proper moves and responses just to make sure that nothing gets messed up. So down the road, we find we didn't do something right and we are all thrown for stepping back and having to redo things and so forth that nobody wants to go through. So we'll just double check that in the meantime. Go ahead.
Great.
Mike,
Yes, go ahead. Steve.
are we asking Matt to include in his proposal both the NOI on the table and the forthcoming one?
Well, I don't think he could until he has enough information. So either wait 30 days or so that Lou says
Well,
to
that
have the second
that
one.
becomes the second question.
Yeah, so I don't think there's any way Matt could do a second one without having all that information and incorporate them into one scope of work. I don't have any problem with him providing two proposals and Lou reviewing and hopefully agreeing to fund both proposals separately as opposed to waiting for a combined one, which probably financially would mean the same amount of money, but there might be some savings, Lou, to Matt's reviewing both NOIs at the same time, preparing his responses and so forth, but that's up to you if you want to wait and have us not do much in the way of preparing Matt's proposal until you get the second one done to see if there's any savings.
Well, I'm not so concerned with the savings. I think it's mostly a time related issue. It's gonna require more time for BSC to review the second notice of intent than it would be for the first notice of intent. So mainly because those resource areas haven't been reviewed previously. So
Okay.
once they're on a plan, then I think BSC would be able to provide a separate proposal to review that aspect of the project. So-
Everything, yeah, everything from wetlands to delineation to whatever.
Right. I
Yeah,
agree.
okay. All right, having heard that, Steve, do you still have a follow-up?
That's fine. My concern was overlapping information.
Hmm,
The initial review may be dependent on information that's coming in the second package, so he's double stepping.
Yeah, I can assure you that it's gonna be separate. The separate wetlands, separate riverfront areas, separate,
That it's the same site.
but it's the same site. Well, technically speaking, it's separate lot, but, technically speaking.
Yeah, we'll get through it.
But, I think we can work out the details on that for sure.
okay. All right, so Matt.
Mike,
Go ahead, sorry, go ahead, who was?
didn't we do something similar with Lakeview Estates? Like, it's all the same project, but there were multiple NOIs within that project.
For which project?
Lakeview Estates.
Oh, yeah, that's, well,
Roads and lots are a little different.
Okay.
yeah, well, it's, Yeah, but I think everybody's in agreement that this is gonna be a multiple step and fairly extended process. It's not gonna be something that's done quickly, but given the size of the site as well as the fact that we are going to be looking at least two parts of impacts to the site with the first one we're seeing here and then the second one with the sewer line.
Mike, I have one question
Sure, go ahead.
for Lou. The proposed sewer, would it be connecting to city or would there be any on-site treatment?
No, there'll be a pump station on site that will pump up to a gravity manhole that will be installed on Blackmar Street. And that will run gravity to the town's pump station on Cross Street. So it'll be a municipal sewer.
So there'll be no leach fields, no? So it's just a distribution plan they can put in, basically.
Yeah, well, it's a pump to, I guess the town pumps to a Woonsocket treatment area. We've been told that there's a lot of excess capacity there, so we're confident that once it's designed, it will be all usable, but
Sure, and certainly,
keeping in mind, just so there are when you separate the sewer from the rest of the project, there are other resource areas along Cross Street that will be part of that sewer proposal. And so it will be more involved, but it's better to split the two so they're not, one isn't dragging down the other part of the project.
of course, it doesn't need to be stated, but I'll say it anyway, that if the the notice intent like this one here is moving along briskly, but then we receive and start reviewing and get into the second notice of intent, as you said, you may want to drag it down from a preparing of proposals, reviewing the site, moving forward on all that certainly can be done at two different levels. But when it comes to the final approval for the project, I do not think that we would consider approving one notice of intent without a very clear understanding that the second notice of intent was also going to succeed, because you would only be getting an approval for a partial project and not the complete project, which I'm sure you want both notices of intent to go through, but that's way down the road. So I just want to make it, stated that one
I
notice.
just wanted to let the commission know that that's what
The plan.
we're proposing to do with the project. In terms of split.
All right. Okay. Additional questions or comments from the board?
I just had one.
But
If I understand the map correctly, you're proposing just one river crossing
Correct,
for access?
yes.
okay. Is there anyone in the room that is a butter or someone who's been notified of this project that is here for it? I
Yeah,
can't
this-
see. Somebody's gonna have to tell me that's
Dave Nichols from Blackmar Street. There's actually multiple crossings. There's the crossing that Lou proposes. It's up there on the right-hand side. And then when you get, as you follow along to Blackmar Street, along the old railroad bed, the railroad bed crosses that again. It crosses the Peter River. Where the old abutment, there's a little bit of the old abutment from the railroad crossing still there. And it's gonna have to cross there too. And the wetland is immediately on either side of that one lane railroad bed. And it's just all water. I mean, even to excavate and put the line in is gonna be tight. If you ever have a rupture, that line, that sewer line, there's only one place it can go. And it's not gonna be good.
It's a force main, it's a 4-inch pipe.
Well,
It doesn't matter if it breaks, how big it is. If it breaks, it breaks. It's going in the wetland loop.
okay.
That wetland feeds the cross street pumping station.
Gentlemen, through the chair, please.
Yeah, so that point has been made. Thank you for bringing that up. That will certainly be heavily reviewed, or thoroughly reviewed, I should say, not heavily. Thoroughly reviewed when we get to the point where we have all those plans laid out for us as where they exactly want to cross and go through. The entire proposed route will be surveyed by BSC and or Concom members on site visits, probably multiple site visits, given the nature of it. And so, yeah, we definitely thank you for bringing that up, though, as a butter, and you know the area better than we do. That's helpful. Is there another point that you'd like to make, sir?
No, that's sufficient at this point.
Okay, thank you for that
Thank you.
input. Is there anyone else in the room, Neil, that wants to
Yes,
be heard? Go ahead.
I just,
Could
I
you please
work-
identify yourself? Sorry for the record.
Lisa
Okay.
Parker, 22 Bucky Drive. I
Thank you.
work on Socket. And they have a lot of problems with the sewer treatment plant. On May 22nd, they had a meeting. A resolution unanimously approved by the Woonsocket City Council at a special meeting on May 22nd declares the city will eventually stop accepting liquid sludge from other cities and towns and companies, linking the service to ongoing complaints of foul, odious, and repugnant odors. So I've been to a couple of meetings and you've said you've contacted the city of Woonsocket and they have capacity,
Yes.
whereas this is saying they're not going to be accepting
It's
from other towns.
I think liquid sludge is different than, sewer. But you raised a good point. I mean, I'll follow up on
I
that.
mean, but it's not affecting you. It's going to affect everybody in Bellingham and you're going to stop accepting.
And I'm not an expert on this, but I think liquid sludge is stuff that is trucked in from pumping septic systems and things of that sort. What we're proposing is a force main where the sewer is in a pipe all the way through and pumped from Cross Street to Woonsocket.
I would request that that be investigated. to see
Oh,
if it's been-
I think it's a very good point. I mean, we'll investigate it ourselves because obviously the project would be significantly affected without having the sewer available. So thank you for bringing that up.
And as a point of information, ma'am, the planning board administrator is in the room. I'm sorry, planning board administrator is in the room and is part of the BSC review for the sewage and so forth. He's made a note already, I'm sure, to look into that. We don't want to have the project proceed forward if the people receiving that forced sewer main are likely to shut it off or not accept it at the point in time when we get to the prime of the project where they're ready to hook up to it. So if that looks likely, that certainly be something we want to keep posted on and have them inform us and so forth. So thank you for that point, though. We would not have been aware of that. I don't think if you didn't bring it up.
Yeah,
Anything
Mr.
else?
Chair, can I just add to that really quickly?
Please do, Rob. Go ahead.
So I believe there's a difference between when Socket has their wastewater sewage system and they also have the incinerator. I believe it's the incinerator that they're looking to remove and get offline eventually, because that has some horrible odor issues.
Well, so they've also, dumped into the river and.
Yeah, I believe one of their clarifiers ended up rotting out, which is currently offline. But we'll look into it. I think that's
Yeah.
the situation,
I
but,
work in Woonsocket and in my office, I can smell it.
oh, yeah, yep, oh, yeah,
Pleasant.
yes. Yes, I hear you.
yeah, that whole part of the valley fills up with odors.
Yeah,
Does look like, there's maybe a sewer line that looks like on the Bellingham GIS.
Right.
which Might need to be updated. There's some sewer manholes connected to an invisible line that go along South Maple Street. And they go up to the Charles River, pollution control facility.
So we've looked into that. That's what I've been told from the previous DPW director, that's out in another basin. Not a separate basin, is like the Charles River Water Pollution Control. And for us to take this to that area would require a permitting type of process that is unnecessary because we have the ability to pump to Woonsocket.
It's difficult to get sewer from the south to the north because of the interbasin.
and I believe that Bellingham's
Our
sewer
capacity in the north is
capacities are-
maxed out as well.
Exactly.
We don't have any capacity in the north.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions or points from anyone out there that I'm not seeing? No, okay. All right, Hannah, could you text Noelle the link that you sent me for the meeting? She's trying to get online, but I think she's out somewhere remotely, maybe on her phone or something like that. I tried emailing her, but I don't want to stop the meeting to to do some back and forth.
Yep,
text.
got it.
Appreciate it. Okay, and then somebody let me know if she pops on, just in case I miss it, so I can announce that formally. Thank you. All right, if there's no other points of information, I think we want to move along our meeting, and thank you, Lou, for providing this overview. I will accept a motion to continue the meeting to the evening of June 12th, just so we can see where we are with Matt's proposal process with the BSC review. I don't think, and the Concom members can certainly continue to look through information that we've been provided with to bring up questions or points or information that they need to gain. But I'll accept a motion to move the meeting or to continue this notice of intent hearing for this project to the evening at 7 p.m. of June 12th. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
All right, we have,
I'll
thank
second.
you. A second from Ariane, thank you. All right, so Steve and Ariane, thank you. I'll do a roll call. Neil,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Ariane,
I,
and Mike O'Haron online, aye. Okay, great, thank you. So that's a unanimous vote. Thank
Aye.
you.
Mike,
Yep.
you
Okay,
missed,
go ahead. Yeah.
you missed Steve on the
Oh,
roll.
sorry, Steve. Sorry. I got a minimal view on my screen for the moment because we're still sharing. So
Steve, aye.
thank you, Steve. Now we have unanimous vote for all members present or online currently. Thank you. Okay, so that's continued to 7 p.m. On the 12th.
Great, thank you very much, and we'll see you on the 12th.
Okay. All right.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, for the next item, I believe Noel needs to be on in order to open that next hearing.
Yeah, so I was going to delay that for just a moment and
I would.
give her a moment to do that. I don't think she'll take long to get online when she gets that link. It should be imminent, I would assume.
I sent it through text, but was she emailing you? Because I can do email too.
She texted me just now to share the link about, well, a few minutes after 7, so it was about 20 minutes ago, actually, by the time I saw the text. But I was busy
Okay.
coordinating, so I assume that she's still monitoring both text and emails and looking there. I don't know, unless you back. Okay, yeah, so well, we can certainly fill the time to have you identify who's in the room tonight with you, Austin and Jeff. I think I see both of you guys coming there. Is anyone else from your group there tonight?
Brian Madden.
Sorry, say it again.
We have Brian Madden from LEC as well.
Okay, great. So Brian was able to make it. Yeah, because I know with the changes in the Zoom, this past week, Hannah was reaching out to make sure people knew about that, so you can get somebody on site if you needed to here. And my general intent tonight was to see where we are moving along the process, acknowledge that you did send some information, and we've received it and have been, I believe, reviewing it, but I'll hold off on opening it and saying anything of substance until we get Noel online.
Well, can we just jump ahead to 1052 South Main?
Yeah, actually, if the people present that need to be there for it are there, I see Chris is online. That's good, and Angela's. Oh no, Angela's for the other. Yeah, we can. Why don't we do that? So, if you is anybody in the room from for the with the DPW, or is it just online?
It's pretty much just myself and Chris Syriac that are involved with this one right now.
Yourself and okay.
I'm here. I'm the one without the name.
Right. Well, no, I think CSRX. So, okay, Chris. All right. So I will open the hearing for 1 second. Let me just shuffle here. The notice of intent, the continuation of the notice of intent hearing for 1052 South Main Street, construction of a drainage pipe to replace the failing drainage pipe located within the 100-foot buffer zone to BVW. Glenn Wagner's site property applicant and Chris Syriac from the DPW is representing the project as a representative. Chris, go ahead and give us your update if you would, please.
Rob, would you mind?
Yeah,
Rob, you could, sorry,
Yeah,
Rob, you could do that if you're better prepared. I don't know who's gonna do it.
sure, I can take it away. So I know this is, we're marking off week 4 now, me being here, so this is one of the items that trying to get basically up to speed with. I know that this application, I believe, has been in front of the commission a couple times now, and basically Chris and DPW have just kind of filled me in on where we're at right now with the application. Sounds like a notice of intent was submitted, and it's my understanding that the commission was looking for some information regarding drainage calculations, if I understand correctly. Which, bless you. It sounds like there's been a quote that came in from, I think it was Wright and Pierce. So I guess for me, I wanted to just kind of figure out and make sure or get up to speed with the commission on exactly what it was that you're looking for as far as the drainage calc, so I'm up to speed with them. I know, because I know typically with emergency drainage repairs, they don't usually fall under the Wetland Protection Act, but is it because the pipe's getting sized larger or basement?
First of all, it's not an emergency.
Okay,
It's an inconvenience. It's a hardship on people,
okay,
but it's not, certainly not what we would consider, what I would consider to be an emergency. The dam is not failing.
okay.
It's not sewage isn't bubbling up out of the ground. It's not that level of public health emergency.
Okay,
I get it. The neighbors totally understand where they're coming from. Their yards are flooding. It's bad for them.
okay,
Certainly not an emergency situation. I've heard that word thrown around several times. It's not an emergency.
okay,
Something that needs to be dealt with, absolutely. And I think from my perspective on the commission, that we're trying to make sure that this gets done correctly. And is something that we can legally permit. And not just old school, grab a backhoe and a pipe and fix it. Because that's not how we roll.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
that's where I think, that's where I'm coming from.
okay,
It's not just a backhoe and a pipe.
okay,
It's just where we started before we had the final.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, there's, like I said, still trying to get up to
Yep,
speed,
yep.
so. I
So
heard,
it's going from an 8-inch to, current pipe was 8 inches, I believe, and it's going, the proposed plan was to go by the DPW up to an 18-inch. So more than doubling the size of the existing pipe. And yes, Neil is correct. We don't generally roll with anything non-emergency in a rushed fashion, and we certainly want to balance between what, as the DPW has pointed out, an engineering study to cover from the back of the where the pipe reaches daylight that drains those streets, and it's a DPW pipe, to the location where the berm is of the track around the pond, Wagner's Pond, and then the pipe goes through that berm, the 8-inch pipe. To get that engineering study done is something that we've been told so far, a thorough engineering study, calculations and so forth done to see what would be done if a pipe could be extended all the way across, what the impacts would be and so forth, as well as whether it would have the pitch to do it properly and be effective, would be a very involved engineering study that at this point in time, I think the DPW has made it pretty clear they don't have the resources to engage in, which leaves me as one of 7 members on the commission and only one, with the view that we tried to find some sort of middle ground that doesn't set a precedent that we can't live with, yet at the same time isn't treated strictly as an emergency, but as a town created problem, which has gotten exacerbated by whatever other things have caused this to now become more of a regular flooding problem than it used to be. That pipe's been in there for a long, long time. And find some way to provide some relief to abutters who have been living with this for quite a while and see no relief in sight. And yet also still see if we can move forward with a longer term. Maybe it's going to be possible to do it engineering wise, and maybe it's not, but see what the reality is for striking that balance. We do have the support, as to mention it, with the Norfolk County Mosquito Prevention Control to do some work that they are able to do both mechanically and experientially to clear some areas of debris that is built up and cuttings that have been done that have fallen in and impeded water flow and so forth as necessary. And as we request it, they stand by ready to support, and their regulations, because they're, I don't want to say federally, but they don't have to follow through with some of the same process that we would do if it was strictly a town project. Other Concom members there in the room or online care to add? And by the way, I want to recognize that Noel has joined us, Noel Lewis from the commission online as another Zoom participant along with myself. She has joined the meeting, so I want to recognize that for the record. Any other members have any other thoughts or comments on this project? We've heard a number of meetings about it. Input for Rob if necessary.
But again, just for the record, I think we need to understand better where the water's coming from, why it's getting worse, where it's coming from, what's causing it to get worse. And is there something we can do to mitigate it upstream? And what are the downstream effects of putting in a bigger pipe? Where's that water going? What are we going to do? What are the effects downstream? So I think without understanding what's causing it and why it keeps getting worse, we're just moving the problem. Nothing's changed in the dam, nothing of the pond and the outflow of the pond, nothing's changed. So it's obviously receiving more water and doesn't have anywhere to go. Why is it receiving more water? Where's this water coming from? Is there anything we can do about that? And then again, if we just put in a bigger pipe, we're just pushing that water down the stream. And what's our next problem?
Right.
Where are we gonna, where are we gonna play whack-a-mole with this volume of water that's moving down the stream? Or are we? I don't know. I don't think anybody.
I do want to clarify that my
Those are-
earlier statement that, sorry, Neil, that pipe that comes out through and daylights in one of the abutters properties is not the sole source of water. So it's not the town has increased the problem, although on heavy rainstorms, more water comes out of that pipe, I'm sure, and helps worsen the situation. But you're right. There's water coming from other upstream. Actually, their water comes from Blackstone on the other side of North Street, Blackstone Street. I've seen went by another project that we approved some work in the back of that. You can see a lot of water comes from that wetlands on the north side of Blackstone Street. And that's just one source, and there may be some other sources for it. My question to you, Neil, is do you have a suggestion as to whom we could get to survey that kind of thing? Because I don't think we've come up with this kind of situation where we've called upon some expertise. Is it somebody like BSC perhaps, or that might have a source for, not that they do it, but somebody that they know could survey that and do a water flow analysis or whatever?
Well, I think that would be up to the applicant to do, and then we would review it like we would a standard application.
Yeah, I think we're going to need to help support the applicant in this a little bit, in that he's willing to give access to the site, but I've not got a strong sense. We certainly can reach out to him and see if he's willing to look into that for it and moving the process along. But given the dynamics of what I've heard so far from the process going forward, I think he's a willing access, and you want to do stuff on the site to make it that won't negatively impact his property or the pond. Willing to do that, but I'm not sure how much effort he feels he needs to expend because it's not impacting him negatively at this point.
I think he's more peripherally involved at this point.
Right. So while we normally would, you're right, absolutely, Ariane, have the applicants take the lead on this, and they would generally be willing to do that because they want to relieve the problem. In this case, it's a little more.
I meant DPW. But
Yeah, well.
If I may.
Yeah, sure, good.
Yeah, so the DPW did reach out to an engineer to look into this. So, and get a scope to figure this out. I just wanted to understand from the commission standpoint, because it sounds, I understand where you're coming from. You want analysis of upstream of the pipe, conveyance of the pipe, analysis downstream of the pipe. I get it, to make sure that there's no flooding. So.
And there have been times when all the boards are out of the dam, as far as I understand, and with a lot of rain, it's still not helping. They're still backing up above the pipe. So
Yeah.
That's going to happen periodically anyway. But Chris, having just heard Rob's comment about engaging the engineer at the DPW, do you have any update on that? Who's doing it? How they're doing on it? Are they going forward with something?
So the request for drainage study we got a request for it. It's $15,000 just to do the study. And I feel if they're doing a study, they're going to say that the drainage is undersized, and then you're starting to look at hundreds of thousands of dollars chasing the drainage back. I don't think the DPW doesn't have any plans of redoing the drainage there or other areas that are experiencing, with the heavier weather, the wetter areas that we see all throughout town. I think we see wetter areas all throughout town, and I think it has a lot to do with the rainfall, in my opinion. I don't see us having the money to be doing this everywhere to keep chasing down. I don't see how we would ever fund it.
I didn't know if you have an annual allowance for engineering studies that is available to tap into for, or maybe at the very least have this engineering firm provide a detailed narrative as to what they would or would not be providing in their $15,000 study. I certainly wouldn't want to be signing up for any kind of payment of that magnitude without getting a real lot of information about what you are and aren't going to get out of it. So you're not disappointed by getting a couple paragraphs and you're right, it's problems somewhere else. Or put a bigger pipe in, but it may not work. And as a final result. So can you see if the engineering firm is willing to provide at least more narrative to see what would be gone for it?
Yes, and I also believe that was submitted to you guys while I was out. I believe Sean submitted that. So you should have what they submitted with it behind it, but I can also look into it and get some more details on it if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll double check
I
that.
don't believe that, I mean, we got that document, but I don't remember it being itemized, which I think is what Mike is specifically asking for.
Well, both itemization as well as narrative. I'd have to double check. I remember if it was submitted to us and we got in the portal or something, I probably looked at it, but it was probably quite a while ago. And I might have just forgotten that we got that information. It might be as detailed as we could ask for. It might be that it was just bare bones. I don't remember. Okay, I'll certainly look at what I was provided with in the past and if they have anything else that they could offer. So we're still stuck at the point where we don't have a plan moving forward. Short of
Mr. Chair, a couple of comments if I may.
Sure, Steve.
More for record, but I mirror Neil. We need to understand the bigger problem, especially since any fix, be it a deep involved engineered fix or even just a minor fix, the fact that we've done it as a town will own the results and we'll be responsible for it if it does not work. So that's driving my position of we need to understand the problem bigger. And if Chris is right that the work done is hundreds of thousands of dollars, well, then it's a bigger problem than we anticipate. That might have just been a kind of hip shot figure he threw out there in his experience. Negative side, and I do recognize this, the applicant's just trying to get something fixed quickly as possible. However, we can't use Neil's phrase, just show up with a backhoe and a pipe and have at it, because whatever it produces will own.
Right, we would have to have a maintenance plan going forward, which I'm sure Chris could provide minimal impact, hand clearing on either side of the pipe every 6 months or as needed or every whatever. And the applicant has been willing to provide, I think, future access for that maintenance. But again, my understanding from the applicant's perspective is, from what I've seen and heard, not talked to him directly, the Wagners are willing to provide access, but I don't think they're proposing or necessarily going to engage in any kind of expenses of any kind of major magnitude. But
No, I don't think this is, I don't think this, it really involves the Wingers at all, except access to the property to do whatever work is.
well, referring to the applicant as far as the ones that usually.
Well, yeah, but they're not really the applicant.
He's the only reason
They're a straw man.
Right.
out to him for access. It doesn't impact his area. He didn't, it was no impact to him. I reached out to him to see if we could get access, and that's why. And his name is, he's the owner of the property, so
Right.
That's why.
Right, we had to have somebody on there as applicant. Right, the town usually wouldn't be the applicant, or it could be, I guess. We've seen some sites where they've done that. Okay, so suggestions from the commission members, anything that they have for a thought? I don't have a whole lot of suggestions to continue this until we get a decision on whether, I guess, the town is going to be willing to potentially underwrite and whether it's the DPW or the town in general, some sort of study, which is what I think the commission is leaning towards, at least the members who have spoken up so far. And so if the intent is that, and the pleasure of the commission is that we look into the long-term impacts, other than us reaching out to the town administrator and bringing this problem to a different level within the town, since we've heard the DPW's resources are not going to necessarily be devoted to this.
No.
I don't have any other thoughts. Any other members do? Noel, I see you chiming in. You're muted.
No, I have no comment.
Okay. Sorry, I saw your light up for a second. Any other members in the room there? What are your thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, I have something to say. This is
Come on.
during tonight. A couple of things. I understand it's not an emergency for anybody else whose property it does not impact. But if you can't utilize your property because of this problem, it is an emergency, number one. Number two, the existing pipe, how come I can't find, nobody in the town can provide me a permit for the pipe that's there? The town installed the pipe, so the town owns the problem, but nobody can provide the permit for the small pipe that was installed. Where's the permit for the pipe that's been installed now, that was installed years ago?
Probably didn't have one.
Well, then the town owns the problem if the town put in the pipe. That all the water from, you know, all these other streets are draining down through. I didn't install the pipe, Mr. Wingett didn't install the pipe. So where do we get the permit? You know, if there's an issue about issuing a permit to have a larger pipe installed, how come nobody's looking at the picture? Where's the permit for that small pipe that was installed? That isn't adequate for the water.
It was probably installed prior to the next. Check.
And that's fine, but it's still the town's problem. I'm not the one that's draining the water through that pipe.
Yeah. Bernadette, excuse me for a second. We don't know definitively, I don't think, that the town did install the pipe, do we?
We have a drainage easement shown that kind of goes near the pipe, but I don't think it goes directly to where the pipe is installed.
Chris, would you have anything in the DPW files that go, how many years ago did you say it was, Bernadette, you thought the pipe was put in?
Oh, it was many years ago, Mike. I don't know the exact year, but I've already checked with the DPW. They don't have any permit on it.
Okay, well, if there's no permit, then I don't know for sure that the Wagners didn't put it in to relieve drainage around the perimeter of their pond, so the berm wouldn't fail.
Was it Odell?
Yes.
Adele at one point in time.
No.
Well, I don't know who owned I mean, somebody else owned that property prior to the Wagners, who are relatively recent. If
Well,
it-
that's what he was just asking.
Yeah, the Odells.
Yeah.
So, whether they would be even able to tell us if we could find somebody who was on owner of the property back then, that they put it in, all that would do is say, if private property owner put it in to relieve an issue on their property, the town doesn't own any ownership of it, but moot point, sort of, because there is an issue with the property, that is affecting you, certainly. So we may never get a resolution. I think all the looking in, maybe by you, has been done, that can be done, if the DPW doesn't have a record of it, and a permit can't be proven to have been pulled by, or the work wasn't proven, nobody worked the DPW that many years ago. It's still around, they could say, yeah, we put it in 1968 or whatever. Then I don't know that it isn't just a Wagner pipe that was put in by them, or previous property owner.
Well, I'll ask him. I
yeah.
do communicate with him. I will consult with him on that. But
Sure,
the
I mean-
fact still remains, all the water that's coming from the storm drain through that pipe, through the easement that you mentioned that the town has access to, that's all water that's coming down from the streets of Bellingham. That's
Right.
backed up into half of my yard that I can't use or mow half the time when we have all this rain.
Right.
That's, that's a town issue.
Yeah, it's an issue that's throughout the town, I agree. Whether the town will take ownership of it and agree with you that it's an issue, I'm not so confident. That's, again, a level of acceptance that I'm not sure that the DPW has been willing to in the past, or has precedent in the past done. So I'm not sure what other avenues to pursue, other than I could bring it up to somebody who's been in town for 30+ years, Dennis Frayne, perhaps, and see what his input is as an administrator of the town. And he's seen a lot of things that maybe we're not aware of. That I'm not saying he's going to say, yeah, the town will accept this as a problem and fix it, but certainly we're willing to reach out to any resources we can think of and you can think of to help explore options, short of just saying, throwing up our hands and saying there's nothing we can do, which I don't think any of us really want to do at this point in time. Certainly not you, Bernadette, or other butters. But other than exploring that a little bit more, and unless the other Concom members have some suggestions, or anybody else in the room, I see a hand raised.
Mr. Chairman, if I could speak for just a second.
Go ahead, please.
I would recommend the DPW talk to town council about the provisions in the Wetland Protection Act about maintenance of the stormwater system. This is, in my opinion, conveying stormwater to either a groundwater or overland flow system in disrepair, and we are essentially replacing it, even though increasing size.
They need to buy,
I would count it as maintenance.
they need to buy, no, they need to buy.
It would have been maintenance.
It's not maintenance. Maintenance would be cleaning.
No, maintenance also includes replacement of existing equipment. Right, it's existing. In order to replace something and maintaining that system. Oh, yes.
If they put in a new 8-inch hole,
And we don't know who owns
they're
it.
not.
Clearly,
The
there's
town
a
owns
permit,
it,
who
correct.
installed it, we're discussion that.
Not on town land, may not even be on town easement.
But why is the town?
Well,
If
the
the
town,
town
there are two pipes.
The town's trying to step up and do the right thing, help out the neighbors.
Because the source of the water, without dispute, is from the storm drains that feed from 3 or 4 different streets, including Roberta Lane, Stephen Road, part of Blackstone Street, my understanding was, and part of potentially Saddleback, all feed down to the lowest point, which happens to be the backyard of Bernadette and that outflow pipe that the town put in however many years ago. So that part is definitely town-owned. The question was whether the 8-inch pipe currently that's been stuck for many years in the berm to relieve that water that comes out from both upstream, other sources, as well as that drainage pipe out point, has been put in by someone, private property owner there in the past, or the town, which may be able to be determined with some more investigation, maybe not. But if it's not proven to be a town pipe, I don't know that town will take that on as a replacement slash of equipment. It's a good point, and I'm not sure that.
Mike,
Certainly worth checking.
Mr. Chair, can I add on that? I
Right,
agree
please.
with James that DPW should get together with town council or whoever and decide who's gonna make a decision on this, because if we're guilty of anything, it's just inaction at the moment. There's not, it really, in my understanding, doesn't fall on Concom, because there's nothing for us to review. We certainly can't initiate a repair action. That wouldn't be us, unless there's an element of our scope that I don't understand. So I agree with James that DPW and town seniors need to get together to at least investigate it enough to decide who owns it, who is responsible for it. It's us, let's get it on the list to fix, or tell the applicant we can't. She deserves an answer one way or another. At least then, if it isn't the town's issue, she can and work with that result. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay,
Just in along with James.
all right. Anybody have any other input? I think that's a valid suggestion. Chris, you willing to pursue a conversation with Dennis slash town council just to see what?
Yeah, I think maybe Rob and I and Jesse can talk with Dennis and see what. I do know that from talking with Carolyn, who's been with Norfolk Mosquito for years, at one point in time with that pipe that was there, she had maintained that the the swale that goes to Bernadette's property, and she told me that the swale was running, worked well, and then all the open water that's there now wasn't there. All the trees that are down, all the other, and all the, you know, the major mosquito issue, which is the issue is, I think the biggest issue beyond the flooding also could be a massive mosquito issue there.
Yeah.
She told me when that was clear and running, that worked well, you know, 10, 15 years ago. I believe Bernadette would know as well.
And I'm
Yeah.
sure the trees were taken down in the last 5 years, weren't they, Bernadette?
Yes, he had a bunch of trees cut back there, yes.
And unfortunately, they didn't remove a lot of the debris in the area between the butters properties that are being affected and the berm. There's a lot of debris. Those that haven't seen it, believe me, it's just choked full, which is what the mosquito Norfolk County offered to mechanically remove a large amount of that, not all of it, but to make things flow. But that's just in the immediate area. That doesn't do anything with upstream flow from the other wetlands that are contributing to this, because that flows right down into the other side of it. So, okay, I think that, yeah, Chris, as you suggested, you and Rob and Jesse perhaps talk to Dennis / town council, let us know. I think I'd like to continue this to the next meeting, just to see if you have a chance to talk to them between now and then, and we keep this on the plate of a project that we aren't, you know, throwing up our hands and doing nothing about, but still trying to proceed with in some logical and reasonable manner that makes sense for long term for the Concom. So if there's no other comments or questions from members or anyone else there that I'm not seeing on the screen, I'll entertain a motion to continue this hearing for 1052 South Main Street to the evening of June 12th, 7 p.m. Do I have a motion second? Someone, anyone?
So moved.
Steve, thank you for a motion. Second?
James.
James, thank you. Okay, I will do a roll call and try to make sure I don't forget anybody this time. Neil,
Aye.
Ariane,
Hi.
Noel,
Hi.
online, thank you. Don,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
thank you.
Wait for
And
it.
I, Mike O'Haron, online. Okay,
Said it almost like he was sad. And Steve.
thank you. Okay, so thank you, Burnett, and anybody else that might have been in the room as an abutter, and thank you, Concom members, and Rob and Chris, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
All right, going back up on the agenda here to the continuing notice of intent for 217 Hartford Avenue, 700,000 square foot warehouse, BVW bank, land underwater impacts under the WPA with mitigation of 39,358 square feet of isolated wetland and vernal pools under the bylaw with mitigation. Jeff Curley, applicant from WS Development and Bellingham IV Associates, and Brian Madden and or others, Austin perhaps, would be speaking as representatives. Welcome, people, and we do have all 7 Concom members, including Noel, who was a longtime participant in this particular hearing. Present online or in person. So I would like to mention that we have received a response from WS from on Thursday from questions that we had provided requests for additional information to continue the process of moving towards a completed order of conditions, and mentioned that for myself, I have gone through the first level, I'm calling it the first layer of that information review, as well as other members, I'm sure, of at that point, at least in the short time that we had. And I'd say I'm going to dig into next level documents, the plans that are referred to, i.e. restoration plans, exhibit A and B, the conservation restriction areas that are delineated, B plans, and so forth. A baseline report was referred to at one point in time in the documents. I'm not sure what that document was. I'll have to look into that. I would like to request, unless Hannah, you already have these on site, the most current set of full plans that we can get our hands on. I'd like to actually see the full size plans, and I'm willing to lug them home and roll them out and look at them. And I'd like to see if we can get 2 full sets. These would be ones that for Jeff and Austin and so forth would have those reflected changes and delineations of wetlands area, replication areas, all the restoration plans and so forth, I assume are on some of these sheets, 1001, 1011. I hope there's not 1,000 sheets in this plan. I noticed that was on sheet C-1011, I assume. Tell me there's not 1,011 sheets.
It's not 1,000 sheets, it's been 1,000 days, I think.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, for the record, Jeff Curley with WS Development, the plans you're referring to have been on record since December. There were some revisions to them in February.
Right.
That's the latest set of plans that is currently referenced in the draft order of conditions. You're asking for copies of those plans that have been on.
Well, let me
Are the record
clarify
for
that.
several
When I
months
heard
now?
the 1,000, I'm not looking to lug home 1,000 and I need a truck for that. Hannah, what do we have those December plans, actual copies? Did we ever get any sets back then? Or Austin, did you guys provide us with a couple
Yes.
sets? Okay, so I don't want to replicate 1,000 pages of documents.
It's not 1,000.
It's not 1,000
It's like
pages.
100, but.
Okay, all
No,
right.
it's not.
No, it's like, it's
Not
like 89.
Well, if he's asking for the specific
Oh,
1,000 series, it's 10
So,
plans, but.
Let me
Mr.
see
Chair,
if
Mike,
I
if you
can.
want, this 1,000, what we're calling the 1,000 series, just a designator, I can send you, there's like 8 or 9 sheets in that, if that's what you want. specifically.
That's certainly one of the most pressing ones because I was reading through the, again, first level and I was seeing these referred to and I'm thinking, I don't have a copy of anything on hand. I'm sure there's something online, but I actually, given my size, my computer screen and so forth, I found that as previous chairs have, that sometimes the blueprint is and full-size plans are worth lugging around. But if we have December plans on site in the Concom office, more than one set, I could borrow one. I don't know, or just one set.
I'm gonna relay that to Kaya to look into tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Kaya's hearing that too. So what I'm looking for is if we have the December sets and we have like two sets of those, usually I provide more than one set.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the memorandum you're referring to was originally submitted in early December as well. At
Right,
that point in time, it referenced this same plan set.
okay,
It has been updated in response to the request we received from the chairman himself.
Right.
A week and a half ago or so. We did submit that last Wednesday to the agent.
so the pages that are have been revised, Jeff, are those available as a
The pages
separate-
have not been revised.
Oh, okay, I thought you said there was.
The memo was revised to address comments regarding the detail around the vernal pool replication, but the plans themselves have not undergone any further revision from the plan set that was most recently submitted in February.
Okay, and don't need to, in your opinion, at this point? Based
They
on
do
the-
not.
Okay, so.
We're
then-
not aware of a need for them to.
Okay, okay, no, if what you've seen and what you provided in those memos is accurate and reflected in the plans, then I just need to get my hands on a set of those plans. So the December plans, Hannah, back to the original question, do you have more than one set there? Do you know? I mean, sorry, you're gonna have Kaya check that. So Kaya.
Yeah, I have no idea right now.
Yeah, right, sorry. I should
Mr.
just
Chair.
ask that question. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
are we referring to the C plans, the 1,000 series?
C-1000.
Just
I
in the
believe it's
interest of,
December 13th.
in the interest of complete clarity here, we sent a full set of site plan documents in on December 7th, or the evening of December 6th, December 7th effectively, with responses to comments. That was the entire site plan package. We responded to a letter that BSC authored with a January date. We responded to that in February. And as part of that response, we submitted specific sheets, of which that C-1000 series was a big part of.
Right,
But asked Hannah and Kaya, if you can't locate the entire set of the December 7th set, as well as the supplemental updates that were submitted in February,
23rd.
something like that, let me know. And it's very easy for me to reprint and bring down a couple sets, just in the interest of making sure everybody has exactly what we are
Beginning of
looking
it,
at.
or 7 or 8 sheets out.
I've got 85 sheets from December 13th.
These are, the updated ones are on the 228.
Yeah. So like, if there's the slightest hint of confusion or you're unsure, call me and I will make sure you have everything so that there's zero confusion.
okay. Sounds like a plan.
Kaya, do you understand what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have
So we'll
Austin's
get-
phone number?
I do not.
I'll give you the bat phone, that way you can give me like at all hours, so the signal.
I just want to make sure we're getting, a lot of this stuff has been submitted. Want to make sure if there's question information that people feel they're lacking,
The
please do
baseline
communicate
report,
between meetings if we can.
okay, give me 1 second, Jeff, because I want to mention what page that baseline report comment was made on. I didn't know what they meant by the baseline report, but I can tell you the page. It was in one of the memorandums, I think. Oh, by the way, just an FYI, Ariane may not have spotted this yet, but I'm sure she will. Under the conservation restriction draft that you sent us, I believe she has 1 E in her name, not 2. She likes the extra E maybe, but I don't think she wants it there for a legal document. Signature page on that, just FYI.
Yeah, certainly a draft document that we can. correct.
Yep. I figured we'd go through it more than once. Bear with me 1 more second here. I did highlight. Okay, on page 4 of the grant of conservation restriction, it referred to vegetation management, section B1, baseline report, see paragraph XV. So I didn't know, as documented in the baseline report, which baseline report that is. So
Yeah, there will be a baseline report provided with the conservation restriction easement when it's recorded.
Okay,
It basically describes, to my knowledge, the existing condition of the conservation area, which has been described in myriad documents we've submitted. Again,
So
this was a draft form in response to a request made by
right.
the commission. It's the standard form that DCS and EEA obligate us to use. It is a little different than the past forms we've utilized elsewhere in town where we've provided restrictions, but the subject matter is all here. And we remain consistent with the conditions that have been present in the draft orders going back several months now to providing a completed version of this document that meets the commission's requirements prior to the start of construction. That has been the condition we've been operating under
Right, so-
for 4 or 5 months now.
All right, so for clarity, the
This
baseline.
is a standard form that the state produces. Sorry, Mike.
Which has not yet been produced for us to have, because you're saying that comes out as part of the conservation restriction final document, but when I saw C paragraph 15, I assumed that there was an actual document that you guys had created that was being referred to, not a form for the state, just for clarity, so I understood that, okay.
Understood.
All right, thank you, that's helpful. But the other stuff is gonna be the exhibit
Oh, isn't
A.
that- I'm sorry, Mike, isn't that draft form in here?
Beg your pardon?
A draft form of a baseline study, the grant conservation restriction, that's the document, yeah. That's here in the form. It is, I think Mike is making reference to a specific section of it. Oh. That,
Yeah, it was just
will
the
be
comment,
completed prior to
baseline
recording.
report, and a section was referred to, and out of context with whatever else I was reading at the time about vegetation management, it didn't seem to indicate there was something else I was needing to look for, the baseline report. But I understand that this is also the draft, and so we'll be reviewing that again. Will the information that you've already provided include the conservation restriction CR areas 1 and 2 and the B plan for exhibit A and B? Are those already also going to be included in that packet of?
You talking about the legal descriptions of them?
No.
Or the
App-
plans
able to see
themselves?
Is that in the existing plan set that you guys were referring to?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure those were things I saw noted verbally, or not verbally written, but I wanted to make sure I'd be seeing those. So yeah, it sounds like the plan set is what I was looking for.
An original depiction of the conservation easement we proposed was submitted in October of 2022 to the commission.
It's been a while.
And it has since been revised as part of this process. The last version of that was probably in December as well. So that's been of record. It's when we sent it in February for several months now, maybe February update.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, a lot of information, as you said, has been sent out and over a period of extensive period of time. I want to give the Concom members in the room and or online a chance to ask questions, or if they've started to dig into things, ask for more clarifying information that the applicant can provide. So we can continue to move things along. Anybody have any questions, input, asks?
I don't have any at this time. Still looking through it. It's a lot.
Same.
Okay. James or Don, anything? No, Ariana?
Same. No, I don't have any questions.
Just want to make sure everybody has a chance to.
Yep, appreciate it.
Okay, so I think among other things, Matt is still in the room, I assume.
Yes,
Matt, what's your timing on having received this information, which I assume you got copied on it as well? I know the Concom members did, but you always do get this stuff. What's your,
I did not receive a copy of,
oh,
the WS response.
oh, okay. We'll remedy that tomorrow.
That'd be great.
Sorry about that. So knowing that you're going to get some information tomorrow, what is your schedule looking like so we can have the applicant hear what the BSC review of that initial response and or any other things you've dived into? You know, we've been talking about the order of conditions and we'll continue to be working on getting that to as close to a final form as we can with especially this new information. What's your sense of timing?
Yeah, it has felt very close, so I think that I don't expect to see anything that's problematic at this stage, so I should think that I can get you a comment back within the week, so you have a week before the 12th. So middle of next week, get you a comment.
Yeah, but we're gonna have the October surprises.
Should there be any comments or need to discuss anything further? Applicant is willing to, if the commission would agree, a workshop session or something like that to discuss any comments with Matt, with staff, with any members of the commission that, or representative of the commission, similar to what we did last fall to move this along. We just are anxious to.
I couldn't have guessed that you're, yeah, no, I agree. I
Didn't
did
sense that at all.
I did warn you at the last meeting, Jeff, when you caused us, wanting to make sure that all information was being provided and exchanged and so forth, that I may not so much slow things down, but have you get impatient to the point where you'd say, what else can we do a little more on? Because I want to make sure we do this correctly and thoroughly. And as you said, all the information and everything from conservation restrictions to other information in the order of conditions is clear for the downstream people, as you referred to it, which is a unique term. I've never heard that used in all the meetings I've been to for other people receiving information down the road, which is, good. There was a comment on my first request for information. Give me 1 second, bear with me. That your response letter or response email covered, and it caused me to want, here we go, proof of submission. Okay. Proof of submission of all certifiable vernal pools in the form of Heritage Hub submission report should be provided to the commission prior to the closing of the public hearing. That was my request for information to you. Your response was basically looking to, I'm shortcutting this because some of the members haven't, including BSC, hasn't had a chance to see this. Basically saying that prior to the commencement of the construction, you would submit the data to the Mass Natural Heritage and Species Program for the official certification of all vernal pools outside the current limit of work have been verified during site investigation of the project. So basically you are looking to have that be the continuing timing wise schedule for getting vernal pool confirmation certification. How long does that process take with Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program to do? Once you submit that application to them, you've done it before for their sites, I assume.
I have not done it before for this site.
Okay, so my question was, if you want to move the project along, why would you not want to do this paperwork item, which may take months to resolve itself? I don't know how fast they're going to respond to this and get it going sooner, if not just because we would like to see the results before the project is, the hearing is closed, and our ability to make changes and so forth becomes more complicated, if not problematic, at the point where the project is about to construction is about to start. That's late in the process for us to have potentially a problem come up with vernal pool, which may delay your project even more because we would then have to have some sort of additional hoops to jump through. I don't even know what they would be down that road. Why would you not want to do this as fast as possible, as early as possible in the process if there's a paperwork?
We're comfortable with the schedule that we're imposing upon ourselves to make the submission after receipt of an order of conditions that allows us to build the project.
Okay, I'm going to reserve any.
Sure,
I would have a response to that, but I want to get more input from the other commission members after they've had a chance to review the response letter and packet, and BSC as well, to get some input. on that particular thing, but I think we've made our point clear that we would like to see it before closing the public hearing, and your point has just been confirmed. And that, you're
For
willing to-
clarity, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Sure.
we identified the existence of potential vernal pools in our application going back a year and a half ago. We designed a project as if these vernal pools are here, and we've agreed to conditions in several rounds of draft orders that have been circulated that have committed to certifying the vernal pools ahead of construction. Just a week and a half ago, this request came that this is something the commission would like to see prior to close a public hearing. This has not been an issue we've been trying to avoid. We've been willing to certify these pools prior to the start of construction. We're just not in a position to recover the property and to pursue that until we know we have a project to move forward with.
Mhm.
And that's where the commission has been in several rounds of draft orders going back to early part of this year. So this is the shift in position with respect to the conservation restriction as well. These are both sort of issues we've committed to providing in several rounds of draft order. And then as part of this recent round of correspondence, there've been requests to extract a little bit more here. These are not things we're uncomfortable with. These are not things we've run away from. We submitted this conservation restriction map, as I said, in October of 2022. We understand this is mitigation we're proposing for the project, for the impacts we're creating. And we just want to make them things we commit to do when we start construction. And that's been the commission's position.
I think the commission's
Around the
position has
board.
been, or just to clarify, Jeff, I don't think the commission's position has been quite as definitive as you're stating, but I won't dispute it because I wasn't involved in some of those earlier conversations, workshops where it may have come up, as well as they are draft orders of conditions, which while you did provide input on and some additional comments and editorial and so forth, we, I think, have a precedent in the past, and Neil, I think you might be the most veteran person to confirm this, that when it comes to vernal pools, we want things certified as early on in the process by the authorities that need to certify it. In this case, the Heritage Subsubmission Forum with the Natural Heritage program, as early on in the process as possible. I don't think that we have generally ever wanted to wait until the construction is about to start or pending starting after a hearing is closed. Is that correct in your opinion, Neil? Recollection, I mean, it may have not have happened more than one or two times in the last 20 years you've been doing it, but I don't recall us waiting that late in the process for any project, whether it was clearly stated that way earlier in this project or not. I don't think that we're making a major change from what our practice has been in the past.
No, but I think any of the pools that we've identified and that we've self-certified thus far have been designed within the parameters of the project already. Have been, those are all, I think those are all kind of settled at this point. Again, the project was designed to WS's point. I think they designed the project based on the evidence and the assumption that those are vernal pools.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, to Jeff's point, we designed the project, obviously with a lot of collaboration and feedback from this commission, with the acknowledgement that those potential vernal pools are something we're designing against, and with your feedback, obviously. And I think to Jeff's point, what we don't want to do is encumber, if you will, the property prior to us having received presumably a positive order of conditions that enables us to do the project. We're more than willing to do it, and we will do it before anything starts and commences. But it's, you know, in my personal opinion, it's a little bit unreasonable to say, okay, encumber this, and then we'll give you the permit. That's kind of, we've designed this thing as though those things exist and they are functioning like vernal pools. And we're willing to do the certifications. It's just, we got to make sure that the product's entitled to proceed before we can actually go and pull that lever, so to speak.
And live with whatever the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program response is. They like the certifications, they all agree with everybody and then we're good to go, or other
But
response.
even if they're not, even if Natural Heritage doesn't certify them, which I don't see that they wouldn't. But for the sake of argument, let's say they don't certify them. The project is still designed and will still be built based on the order we've written. That the protections that they're afforded aren't going to change. They're not gonna redesign the project just before construction if the vernal pool is not certified.
Right, so basically it would put in a vernal pool even if it wasn't certified as being.
Yeah, it's
still a
a
wetland resource.
it's a vernal pool.
Right. Well,
And the project is designed at, Matt, yeah,
I don't want to cut you off.
no, go.
I was just gonna say, the Natural Heritage Program is literally years behind schedule in responding to even acknowledging receipt. So it was more a recommendation that they get into the system. So I think a possible resolution here, because I understand the point that is being made. If LEC can put together the package that will get submitted for the commission's review of the, I think it's 3 that we're talking about. Then you'd have it in hand. And, that might be a route.
So Matt, you didn't chime in earlier when Jeff said he hadn't done this before and I asked how long. You're saying it's potentially years before they even respond?
So it takes about an hour to upload the data. So that's per pool or so, about an hour. But yes, it could be a long time before Heritage actually responds one way or the other.
Because I don't know if Jeff is still seated, but he might have just leaned back in his seat saying what. So
No, I think to Mr. Shanley's point, we're not building anything on them, we're avoiding them. If it takes years for them to ultimately confirm what we all suspect is the case, that they're certified vernal pools, we're fine with that. We're not building a project on top of them. If Natural Heritage years from now comes along and says they're not vernal pools, they're still wetland resource areas, as I understand it. They're still jurisdictional under your local bylaw.
So you're building in the time that you said to allow for a response, but in fact, you're just going to submit, if I'm understanding what you're actually proposing is, you're going to submit the applications, but not wait for a response necessarily to them being all certified, because that may take a year or two, based on what you heard from Matt. You would want to then just say, well, we submitted the certification forms as required before the start of the construction, but you're not, and I'm looking at your comment prior to the convention discussion, the applicant shall submit data to the Mass National Heritage and Species
I
Program.
may, Mr. Chairman, while you're reading that language, that was language the town proposed to us. And I believe it's consistent with other orders for similar projects, which is where our order came from.
All right,
But I
so
think-
I
I think
didn't want to misspeak that I was expecting, or that you were expecting to have a response back from them necessarily in that time period that you were allowing for. It was that you would certainly at least submit the information as per the recommendation. Okay, I don't want to beat.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go
can I
ahead,
ask
Steve.
you a question? Is there a downside risk that you're concerned about?
Oh,
It seems
well,
like if,
I didn't know
if
anything
they-
about the timing of the whole thing. I assumed a state project, state certification from any state agency is going to be delayed somewhat. And my thought was if we wanted to see certification for all of them before the start of the project, that's not what was being proposed. So if that's been made clear, then I'm willing to move on at this point in time and ask one more question about the item number 2 that we had requested about vernal pools, so we can not beat a horse unless someone else on the Concom has a question or clarification about.
it seems that if we get the certification, then it's just fallen in place as planned. If they don't, well, and they decide, well, no, it's not a vernal pool, then it's really only the applicant who might have changed direction and done something they didn't do.
I think part of the point here too that we've been talking about is whether or not Natural Heritage says those things are or are not a vernal pool.
They're irrelevant.
It is irrelevant because we're treating them like they are and we're designing around them. So it's, at some point, it becomes an extra paperwork, which we're willing to do, but we're not going to change anything if they come back with a different answer.
And potentially by the time Natural Heritage certifies them or not, this thing will be built. Could be. Potentially, and so you're certainly not gonna, oh, that's not a vernal pool, quick, get the bulldozer and,
Or go get
Not without coming to you.
back on the pipe, right?
There's still a wetlands resource.
there's still a wetland resource, so I don't.
Yeah, but the bylaw enables the protection of vernal pools certified for.
Right, we've already certified them in our minds per the town
And
bylaw.
we've avoided them.
So natural heritage giving their blessing is nice. But
But should
it doesn't change the facts on the ground.
Anything.
It won't change the facts on the ground at all.
All right, since I raised that ugly question and extracted as much information I think I can, I'd like to suggest I move to the second question. And the other comment I have, which was we had requested a detailed vernal pool mitigation plan with cost estimates. The response that I got, again, I'll let the applicant respond if they want to after I make my comment or question, but is, and the Concom members to have a chance to review the response. It seems to refer in the letter that you provided for response that various areas have sort of naturally restored themselves in some of the replication areas, including some vernal pool replications that have occurred post gravel mining and so forth over the years. But while that's maybe true and maybe an indicator that I believe it's going to be LEC environmental consultants who would actually do the replication. Is that correct? Or are they just consulting on this prior to picking a firm?
They will oversee and be the agent in the field overseeing our contractor who will do the actual construction of the road.
Okay, so they would be the ones that perhaps could provide. What we were actually looking for.
That's spelled out in the draft order of conditions, Mr. Chairman, already.
Right, as I was thinking that it wasn't exactly dodging the question, but it wasn't responding to the question either, which is, can you or can you not provide, excuse me, I just need to find a note here. I wrote down my question and I don't want to phrase it wrong. Having taken a moment to write it down, one moment. Oh, here we go. Can you provide, through our LEC, provide actual examples off-site, not on this site, which seemed to be only what was being referred to in this response, of vernal pools that they have created in a similar situation where they're being required to on a site that is losing vernal pool and needs to have one replicated somewhere else successfully with, 5 years or plus of success. So, it survived and thrived and ideally in the New England area, so the same climate would prevail and or not, because that's what I think we're looking for some references basically of examples of success. While we hope it will be, and there's lots of positive hope and comments in there that based on the science and other information that you have available to you from LAC and others, that you're going to be able to be successful. Monitoring certainly is in there in the plan and everything else, and you're replicating a larger square footage than the actual wetland Y vernal pool that's being referred to by far. There isn't any references that we were basically looking for. So is that something that can or can't be provided?
Well, I mean, I think as we said all along, we have extensive experience with wetland replication and implementing those aspects to vernal pool creation. It is uncommon that you're creating vernal pools in a regulatory setting.
Exactly, and why our concern, I think, at least mine and maybe other members of the commission as well, to whatever level, is that we have somebody who's doing this that has done it before successfully. That's all.
Well, I think we can demonstrate a great deal of success with wetland replication. I mean,
But
the greatest example here is the incidental creation of 6 vernal pools by simple sand and gravel removal incidentally over time, creating vernal pool habitat. With a little care and oversight and professional instruction to the contractors, we have abundant amount of confidence that vernal pools can be created.
Okay. I'll ask one more time and then I'll stop asking. Can you provide examples of vernal pool replications specifically? I know that is a very rare thing to do, but that makes it all the more pressing that we have somebody who's actually going to be doing it. I agree that the sites have restored themselves somewhat, some other parts of the site, but maybe not the site that we're going to be doing the replication with the vernal pool in. Do you have somebody that is going to do the work that has done it successfully somewhere else? It's a pretty simple question, either yes or no. If it's a no, it's a no. We'll see what we can do, see how it comes out. But if it's a yes, I'd like to get some examples potentially sent to us of that very specific vernal pool replication success.
Well, I have participated in vernal pool creations on Audubon property. Those were targeting different species of concern. And that has been replicated in ensuing years. Again, different standards and methodologies were being implemented and experimented on that project. Pilot project. But again, I think we can fully demonstrate our wetland replication experience and ability to create these systems. Not to mention, as we stated in our memo, we are over designing these vernal pool habitat areas at a ratio of 24:1. That accounts for cushion and margin of error. And I think that the level of mitigation that is proposed currently is over and above the level of alteration, again, at the ratio being proposed.
Mr. Chair, can I add one thing?
Sure, Steve, go ahead.
So it sounds like with all the confidence and the experience in wetlands, all that's great, and we're banking on that. You don't have a list of completed pools and their performance
That will be done by the contractor that's doing the work.
to offer as a resident. Correct?
I don't have an easy comp that I can point
That
to
would
and say,
be
this is,
yes or no.
we went through a 5-year post evaluation and this is what was determined. I can defer to Matt. I think he'll say same things. It's unusual and uncommon for this type of replication to be implemented, but
Everything that exists wasn't done once at one point. So,
All right,
That's
any
fine.
other, thank you, Steve.
does that answer your question, Mike?
Yeah, I can read between the lines. Okay, so I will ask if the commission members have any other questions or input at this point in time. Okay, again, we received a lot of information. We are moving the process along. We are not ready to certainly close this hearing and or issue an order of conditions, but we are making progress and we are moving things along. BSC will be giving us some input after Matt's had a chance to review it and dive into it. So I assume you would want to continue this to the next hearing and see how our progress is going and not wait 2 meetings. Is that correct, Jeff? And we certainly will
Again,
ask for more information in between now and then quickly and as clearly as possible if we need more clarification.
Yeah, happy to provide copies of plans that the commission has had.
That would be helpful.
If necessary, and willing to schedule any kind of workshop session to move things forward. We've been at a virtual standstill for several months here, with all due respect, and we just want to.
Well, given that it's been a 1.5-year process at least, and that we have had a lot of information provided relatively recently, although over the year.
With all due respect, there hasn't been an awful lot of information provided recently.
All right.
This is information that's been on the record for months and months at this point.
All right, well, I will just say to you that while I understand your sense of urgency, we are going to proceed at a deliberate pace and see what the commission's response is to any additional questions or information they have, make sure they're comfortable moving forward on this massive project, which is going to have a huge impact in town for a very, very long time. So having said that, we will continue to move forward on this. We are committed to that in as timely a manner as we can, but it's going to take at least 1 more meeting. So I will again entertain a motion to continue the meeting to the evening of June 12th at 7 p.m. for a starting point.
I would just, if there's any public input.
Oh, sorry. Is there any other Betty in the room? Public questions?
There are some on the room, so just want to make sure.
Online. Thanks for reminding her of.
Yeah.
Okay, hearing none, seeing none. I'll look for a motion.
So
Who was that? I couldn't hear.
Neil.
Oh, thanks, Neil. Second,
Second.
let's see. Okay, thank you. Roll call. Neil,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Ariane,
I,
Hannah. I'm sorry, it's not Hannah. Noel. You don't get to vote, Hannah. Say again, Noel. I think you're muted. I didn't hear it.
Aye, sorry.
Thank you, Noel online for aye, Mike O'Haron online for aye. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you, Jeff, Brian, and Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Thank you.
Okay, moving right along, we will go to continue hearing for notice of intent for 0 Maple Street to propose 19,525 square foot industrial style building. With parking areas, 3 proprietary treatment devices and 2 subsurface infiltration systems. Applicant is Rich Gordon and the representative is Shane Oates, who I see is online. Shane, I believe that we heard last that we were waiting for the planning board to make their final recommendations, changes and responses to where they were in the process. And then based on where we were, we might be ready to issue an order of conditions. However, I understand the planning board is going to be potentially amending the plans, so we won't have a matching plan set because there are some proposed information and changes. Do you have a meeting tomorrow with them?
No, we don't. We had a meeting. Good evening, first of all. Shane Oates with Independence Engineering. We had a meeting with Planning Board last week. We're getting some final minor revised plans to the town this week with updated drainage calcs for peer review to take a look at. So the revisions that have been made to date, I would categorize them as minor, and they have no impact to any buffer resource or resource areas. Our limits of work haven't changed, nor can they, because we have a maximum disturbance limit for riparian zone work. So do that what you will. You know,
Okay.
I don't know if the commission could possibly at least close the public portion of the hearing, how far we could get along with an order of conditions. Because to be frank, planning board's going to go on for a little bit longer. It's not going to be like another 1 or 2 weeks. It's going to be
Okay.
longer than that.
And you can't proceed with the project, obviously, you got both planning and Concom.
You got it.
Let me mention that I believe that we have a clock that starts ticking once we close the hearing to issue the order of conditions. Is that right, Hannah? What's the number of days on that?
21 days.
Right, so if it goes more than 2 meetings, we're gonna be in violation of, not potentially violation, but have an issue with not having issued an order of conditions, but close the hearing. So I think we
Okay.
need to go at least one more meeting, see how you do with planning board and what changes there would make to the plans, even if it doesn't affect Concom's ruling and order of conditions at all. We can finish tweaking the order of condition. Well, we already tweaked the order of conditions. It's done, right, Hannah? Is 0 Maple done? I forgot, we didn't sign off on.
No, not this
Okay.
one. This one's not done. This one's in the
So
process.
we will finish tweaking, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, the order of conditions for this project as well, so that when hopefully you get the final sign off with planning board, it may be in 2 weeks, it may be more than that, but at least we'll be covered and doing things in the proper order.
Sure.
Okay, so things
So
are moving.
we're on, I believe our next hearing is June 13th
Yeah,
for
that'll be after
planning.
our next Concom.
So if next Concom is the 12th, I don't think we need to be on that agenda. We could be on the one after that.
That'll be the 26th. Okay, I think
Sure.
that's helpful to know. Any commission members have any questions or input or thoughts on this that they need to ask or want to ask?
So Chair, yeah, just in terms of, excuse me, waiting for a response, we tend to wait till planning has finalized so that we have one set of unified plans going
Right,
forward.
exactly,
We're referencing the final set of plans, so
exactly.
I think going out to, what is it, the 26th?
Mhm.
Was would be prudent, because we don't want to jump the gun and
Yep.
to then make changes prior to.
Right, that's, I think, what we were holding on the last one was because we had heard the planning board hadn't finished their final set of plans, and yeah, I think we've been on the record a couple times, but I think it doesn't hurt to ever reinforce that we want to be waiting until planning board has finalized their set of plans and we have the unified set from planning and Concom coordinating that. So
Okay, I'll make
Right.
sure I keep in touch with Hannah in case,
something
which is a possibility that planning could take longer than that. I'll make sure we come see you when we're kind of we'll time it with the completion of our planning board hearings.
Right, thank you, that's good. And if anything in the planning board does make a change that you don't anticipate that would affect Concom's needing to re-review something or pull something back out as promptly as you let us know that, the more helpful it'll be, so that we maybe have a chance to do that before the 26th, but
Absolutely.
would certainly put it on the agenda for the 26th. So I'll, there are no other commission members? Ariane's waving her hand. I see it. Go ahead, Ariane.
Hi, I'd also like to just add that if you don't have any updates, you can send Hannah an email, preferably a few days before the meeting and just ask for a continuation. And then you might not even have to attend the meeting. We'll just continue the meeting for the next one. You can say the date that you prefer to go to.
Right, that's helpful to
Sure.
know. Sorry, Ann. All right, if no other comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion to continue this hearing for 0 Maple Street with the industrial style building to the evening of June 26th at 7 p.m.
So moved.
All right, thanks, Steve. Second, someone?
Seconded, Tom.
Thanks, Don. All right, a roll call. Neil,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Ariane,
Hi.
Noel online,
Aye.
Mike O'Haron online. Aye, unanimous vote. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
You too.
Good
Thank you.
night. Good night.
Okay, last item on the agenda is going to be a very quick one because we've got a last minute request to continue to the 12th from the applicant's representative, Ryan Rosine, but I will open it. It's going to be a continued hearing for a notice of intent for Blackstone and North Street, 12 3-unit townhouse buildings, stormwater with a stormwater management system. John Moshian, Raven Homes is Raven Homes is the applicant, and Brian Rosine was the consultant online. I don't see Ryan on there, so I guess he'll just let me say it, which was they've requested a continuation to the 12th. They have requested that we review their drafts conservation restriction, which they sent to us fairly late in the timing. And we are working on, I think we agreed at the last meeting, Hannah, correct me if I'm wrong, they would like to request that we send them a confirmation letter of some sort or a memo stating that we would be willing to hold the conservation restriction as the grantee, I believe the term is. And I think that was discussed and put in the minutes of the last meeting that we would be willing to do that. We haven't done that yet, but we certainly have time to do it between now and the 12th. If the AN commission members recall that agreement that we would be the grantee and that whatever the conservation restriction letter is that they've drafted, we could certainly review that as it's in the portal, I think, or will be in the portal. Hannah?
That sounds about right, Mike.
Yeah. It's, we'll see how different their conservation restriction is from the massive one that we had for 217 Hartford. But anyway, conservation restrictions are always good to have properly documented, and we can have town council if necessary review it in that time period, I think. So since the applicant has requested continuation to hear it, I'll accept a motion unless somebody else on the Concom has questions about this project.
When did they request this? Do we know?
Hannah, do you remember the email?
Request the what?
The
When did they
continuation.
request the
When did
continuation?
Ryan ask for it? Was it a couple days ago?
The first thing he said to me was yesterday. Sorry. Yesterday he sent the restriction. This morning he requests the continuance.
And
Okay.
it was because of planning board stuff, correct, I believe?
One of the reasons was because they're tweaking the engineer is tweaking a few things to the plans for the planning board.
Yeah, so they weren't quite done with their process.
Because I assume most of you folks are here for this one, right?
I see at least 3 people in the room. Is anybody indicating yes? That they
Can I
want?
ask a question?
Sure. Just please identify yourself for the record.
Yeah, Christine Tessio, 127 North Street.
Hi,
I
Christine.
asked this question in the last meeting. A lot of the land surrounding the field is gonna be, it's national heritage and it's going into a conservation restriction. Is there gonna be language put on that land so that no building will happen in the future? Like,
Yeah, okay. I did you ask this question at the last meeting? I think you said just.
I did, yeah, I
Yeah.
did ask that, and I just fear, future, whatever happens in the future, hopefully my lifetime, nothing will be built there, but is there language that the Conservation Commission can put on that? So that it's basically that parcel to the left, there's like over 20 or so acres.
Yeah, we're going to make sure it's consistent.
I believe conservation restrictions are tough to get out of.
Okay,
It's the first prohibited use in construction.
Yeah.
So they're, once they're created, they're very tough to get out of or modify going forward. So, and like I said, the first thing is no construction, so.
Yeah, just as an example, Christine, in the one of the previous applicants had provided us with a draft conservation restriction for a very large project. And under prohibited acts and uses, and this is a draft from a lot of other similar conservation restrictions that they pulled off of, as well as generic ones. Under structure, the very first thing that you're not allowed prohibited in uses on the premises, in this case, the conservation restriction is structures and improvements, constructing, placing, or allowing to remain any temporary or permanent structure, including without limits, building, tennis courts, landing strips, in case you're on an airplane, mobile homes, swimming pools, asphalt or concrete pavement, graveled areas, roads, sign, fence, gate, billboard, other advertising, utility poles, panel, it goes on and on, storage dams, so forth. Certainly, putting things in like playgrounds and so forth would be considered temporary or permanent structures, so they don't spell out playgrounds or other things that you might be concerned about. But permanent or temporary structures is pretty all-inclusive. They basically don't want anything done to the property. And if it did, they'd have a lot of hurdles to jump through legally. I mean, I can't say it's impossible because I don't know that, but I think it would be so difficult that someone who wanted to put a playground in would not find it worthwhile to do that, or something similar to that type of usage.
I'm not aware in town in the last 22 years that anybody has tried to do anything to
Okay.
a property.
They haven't even tried, yeah.
Yeah,
So I
So
I
I knew it
think-
was agricultural zones and then it, that got rezoned, so I just want to make sure. Nothing.
Those are generally pretty ironclad.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, anybody else in the room have a question?
Are they written?
I don't see that.
Any more questions from public?
No, okay. Hearing none, seeing none, no other conservation members having questions, I'll entertain a motion to continue this at the applicant's request to the evening of June 12th at 7 p.m. starting point.
So moved.
Seconded.
That was a tie for the first one, just for the record, so we clearly stated who was the first.
I'll let Don have it.
Okay, Don's first and second was Steve or James, I couldn't hear.
No, I'll second it.
Okay, Neil, thank you for the record. Okay, roll call, Neil,
Yeah.
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Ariane,
Aye.
Noel online,
Aye.
Mike O'Hearn online. Aye, unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Okay, move if there's any, before we go to the last two things for other business, is Dan Kelly in the room? Is he one of the people in the back row?
Yep, Dan Kelly is here.
Yeah, Dan, you're on the agenda for other business. If you want to come up to the table so you can be heard clearly on the microphone, that would be better. And identify yourself and your address, please, for the record.
Repeat that.
Just give your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Dan Kelly. I live at, I own 340 Lake Street.
All right.
And my property abuts the Snett Trail Estates.
Okay, and you had provided some information to us and some photos, I understand, and we
Yes.
had several members since the last meeting where you spoke come out and take a look at the site. At least Don, you came out. Did anybody else on the commission drive by or was able to get to the site that I'm not aware of? Okay, so at least one member was able to see the site. Rob, were you able to go by there?
Yes, a couple times actually.
Okay, so Mr. Kelly, would you like to provide some additional questions or info? We're showing. doing some
No, I sharing.
sharing.
kind of provided all the facts I have really, and I mean, the pictures kind of don't really do what's going on there justice. I try to provide some before and after pictures, but what we had previous to the construction, we had an earth berm that kind of bridged these two vernal pools that connected my property and my neighbor's property, and the road construction basically cut right through this berm. So now what we have is we have like an extreme change in elevation. And along that line, along this line clearing, like there's all types of exposed roots. So I had an arborist come out and also there were some trees removed beyond the line of clearing. But my concern right now is with these trees up on that bank. I had an arborist come out and he told me that the trees that are left up there because of the excavation are now vulnerable to structural failure and wind throw, which a few weeks after the excavation, we had a tree come down. And I believe, Robert met with, the developer, he told Robert that that tree came down in a full windstorm. And I have, you know, the time and date because I texted him when it happened. I texted the developer, and the maximum wind speed on the day was like 25 miles per hour. So the issue of having that is, the applicant in this instance was the tree warden. So it's not like I can reach out to meet my neighbor. Seems like a nice guy. I don't really know him too well personally. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, what can we do here? We have an independent arborist come out and look at this. And then we have the question of the trees removed beyond the line of clearing. We have another tree that was damaged by his clearing where he dropped a tree and they clipped my tree and then it came down in the wetlands. And from what I understand, the developer told Robert that I asked him to take them down, which I have, you know, this is just a small sample of what I have. I have videos. I have cameras all over my house. And I suspect that, you know, the developer doesn't know that.
So is this on public land?
What's that?
Is this on public land? Like-
No, this is my own private property. I know in the order of conditions, it states it does not permit, injury to private property, right? In the order of conditions. There's another picture there where it shows it is, crawler crossing over that sedimentation barrier to fix the tree out of the wetland there. I mean, to be quite honest, I'm tired of thinking about this thing. I'm kind of like looking for a resolution, and Robert's been great, Amy's been great, but I'm kind of at a crossroads where, you know, if there's not a resolution to be had, then I need to do what's best for, you know, my family and my property.
Right, so we
The assumption question there, they're so close to the property line. I mean, even at this moment, I don't know if I own those trees. I mean, I think they're his trees, but when the arborist came out, he said that, you know, they could be mine, he explained the tree laws. I mean, I'm a first time homeowner. I'd say if you went up to the average person, you asked, you know, who owns this tree, you'd say this side, because the majority of the tree is on that side of the property line. But I guess that's not how that works.
So the property line runs through the stump?
It's very close. It's very close, and it kind of circles back to the applicant coming over and maybe unintentionally or intentionally creating confusion about where that property line actually is. The bean poles are laid out maybe every 15 feet or so, and then when it gets to this section of the property, there's not another one until like halfway up the hill, and they're pretty much all gone now at this point, by way of his tree clearing. The other part of this with the trees, you know, where he walked, this was 100-foot pine, massive stump. I think it was about 3 foot across that. I mean, you could drive a bus into this thing and it wouldn't move. So how he snapped it in half and lost it into the wetlands, I'm not sure, but my partner and my 10-month-old daughter were in the house when this happened. He had one guy out there and a machine, running the machine doing the cutting. So there was some negligence involved. And I know that's not your department, but the other thing is right behind this fence, I have a private well, and on his plan, it shows a catch basin like almost in very close proximity to my well. It's just, I don't know, there's just so many issues here. Like the more I look into it, I mean, with that grade change there, I found, and you know, I know you guys aren't zoning, but in the zoning bylaw, it has a section where it says, landscape requirements, section 240-69, existing vegetation. Wherever possible, the above requirements shall be met by retention of existing plants. If located within 25 feet of a street, no existing tree of 6 inches trunk diameter or greater, dense hedgerow of 4 or more feet in both depth and height, or existing earth berm providing similar visual screening shall be removed or have grade changed more than 1 foot unless dictated by plant health, access, safety, or identification of the premises. So that's the general zoning bylaw. This is in the buffer zone. Like there's a vernal pool. I have a bordering vegetated wetland on my side of the property, and on my neighbor's side of the property, there's an isolated vegetated wetland. So if this isn't allowed per town bylaw, why was it allowed in the buffer zone? It's my question.
Because we deal with one set of regulations and they deal with another.
Okay, I understand that. Yeah. But there is in wetlands.
Those questions, we'd have to be brought to them
Yeah.
to say why they, what their pieces are. We're only Unfortunately, our
Yeah.
scope is
Yeah.
around the wetland buffers.
Yeah, and I mean, most of my issues are with planning. This is just part of it. I mean, we lost a significant amount of the ground cover for the vernal pond, the mine side of the property. I mean, I'm just wondering if this was vetted properly, like, I mean, my understanding in the order of conditions, he's required to employ an environmental scientist. I haven't seen any documentation explaining, you know, the basis of like how this was allowed.
Well, the order of conditions, you've had access to that document, Jim?
Yeah, I do, yep.
Okay, my suggestion to continue to see, as you said, focus on what we as Concom can do versus planning board, which a lot of this does sound sort of like planning board issues.
Yeah.
Is to review the order of conditions and any item you suspect based on your current knowledge of this, where we are right now,
Yeah.
as well as potential violation that may have just happened, like somebody going over the line and cutting a tree on your property, you should highlight those and get them to Hannah as quickly as you can.
Yeah,
If
I'm
we
working on-
can act on something, we probably would want to do so sooner than later. After the fact is just catch up.
Yeah, there's so much information to go through. I mean, I'm working on putting, you know, a consolidated document together to present to you guys. I don't have in mind. Robert, told me yesterday that it'd be on the agenda, so I am a little unprepared tonight, but.
Okay, well, as you get the information available, certainly make it available to Hannah as the source for providing it to us. And we will, I think, if we certainly want to act on any violations to the order of conditions that we provided to the applicant, and you're being right there on the site is the best set of eyes we could have to see things. And then, especially if a violation is about to occur or has occurred, or you're able to document that any future violations or continuing ones, do so, because that's helpful to us. As soon as we have some information that we can act on, I think we'll either through Rob or other Concom members or myself or someone be deciding whether it's enforceable via some sort of enforcement order, or whether we just need to have a conversation with the applicant directly and the property developer directly and quickly and say, you know, here's some issues that are in our purview and you're not adhering to them based on eyewitness, video, or photographic proof, as well as
Yeah.
site visits from us.
I mean, vegetation within the buffer is within your purview, if I'm not mistaken, right? Is that correct?
Vegetation
It
within the
is, yeah.
buffer, what do you mean?
It's like vegetation within the buffer zone,
Well,
like the pines there that the arborist told me were subject to vulnerable to structural failure. That was my question.
right, so I don't know if it's on their property and if it's an area that was approved to be modified and trees were able to be cut, if they've exposed some that then fall over and it's on their property further up that crest in the picture I'm seeing.
They're on my property though. That's
Right, if they're on your, the very first thing I would do is get your property staked out by a surveyor, so you have a definitive, legally valid proof of where your property is. Stake them as often as you want to along the property line. And then if it proves by surveyors, you know, that they've crossed over the property line, then you have legal actions that you could take, certainly not necessarily through Concom, but that would be certainly a
That's not
violation.
really the end game for me. Like, I'm just looking for a resolution. Like, could I litigate it? I mean, I'm sure I could, but you know.
I'm not advising.
Here,
Don't-
you know,
don't- yeah,
minding
don't
my
get-
business, and this guy just kind of assaults my property, so I'm kind of, I mean, on some level, the commission did approve this project right after the planning board, so I'm just kind of.
Right, which is why I want to focus, if I can, Don, on only issues that we can deal with. We can't deal with a planning board issue, although Rob's in the room. But if it's Concom, we want to try to address it as we can.
Okay.
So I have a question. I heard a couple of times it was referenced that there's a vernal pool.
Yeah.
And so is it, you know, is that something that we have, is it a certified vernal pool?
Not
And
to
if
my-
it is, and it's damaging, then wouldn't we be obligated to look at that?
Well, mind if I just step in for a second?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of issues, and I know, Dan, we've talked quite a bit over the past few weeks, and I'm sure we'll continue to chat, especially about the planning and zoning related items, because there is a planning board decision. There's some items out working through to try and get those resolved. As far as the order of conditions go, I know I walked the site with the developer and took a look where he has his erosion control out, and there is a crossing, because that's where there's going to be a culvert going in there. all the erosion controls are in place. There's the erosion control also where the replication area is, and that's where that environmental or the wetland scientist needs to come in to deal with the replication area. Now, as far as the order of conditions go, I went through them, and the photo that's up right now is really, I think, the telling one as far as enforcement for conservation goes. Mr. Chair, I think you brought up an excellent point regarding trees being cut on the property or off the property, because it is related to a civil matter based on wherever that property line is. However, there's a really well-written condition in your order of conditions regarding vegetation and clearing outside the limit of disturbance, which in this case needs to be staked by a surveyor, which it looks like based on my site walk. It's kind of tough to see in that photo, but there are stakes along the erosion control line that look like survey stakes. So I do believe that those were surveyed. However, you can clearly tell that there are trees cut outside of the limit of disturbance. So that is a violation of the order of conditions. Regarding vegetation within, like on that hump that you're seeing in the back.
That's about 8 foot high from his subgrade, like, it's kind of misleading, it doesn't look that high in this picture, but if you were to pull a tape measure.
No, that went in and went up pretty steep.
Yeah,
It
it's
did,
very
and-
steep, yeah.
Essentially, what the proposed engineering for that is there's going to be it's a 4 foot high or under 4 foot high retaining wall, so it doesn't need a structural design. And then it would tape back to the back of that. Now that, I'm not too sure, he has the edge of the road staked out, and he's within that limited disturbance within there. So as far as the exposure of vegetation on that hill, you know, we're getting into kind of a gray area with the order of conditions,
Yeah.
but
I know, and even the law, he does, by the way the law is written, he has a right to self-help, but cutting roots, but in this instance, like, I
and
mean, the grade change is pretty extreme, like, that's like if a tree's roots are intruding onto your property, you can cut them back, but that's not what this was, like.
And I will say as well, as far as the clearing goes for this project, I was not in tune very vastly with the Concom side, but I was the associate member on the planning board side of this when this was getting approved. And I do recall that the roadway, it's kind of getting snuck in between two wetlands. The point of that layout for the road was, I believe, the commission, you wanted to protect the resource areas to the best of your ability because, you know, the developer has the right to cut down trees and put in the road. We just need to make sure that it's the most feasible location. And I don't believe, besides the exception of that crossing, that there is any destruction of wetlands, like behind that wetlands behind that hill.
Yeah.
But nonetheless,
Yeah.
I think that if there's enforcement that's taken by the commission, it has to do with trees that were clearly cut outside of the limited disturbance, which it's clear as day, that has occurred. There are, like I said, some other items that I'm working with the developer on from the planning board side. My approach for really any of these situations is to see if the developer can remediate, do corrective actions on these items before clogging up the conservation's agenda and getting you involved. I don't think that that's going to be a feasible route in this case, based on my conversations with the developer.
Is he uncooperative?
Is this Mr. Jones?
Yes, it is,
Tim Jones, mhm.
So,
And now I'm supposed to blindly trust this guy who it's well documented, has had problems with town to do the right thing here, like, I mean, I'm in a bad spot, I think.
so this would be my recommendation to the commission if you want it. I see two routes is there's an issue here. There's something that the commission can certainly enforce on. We have a concerned abutter, and those trees that they were in place could have been nice screening from a road that's going to be installed. I would recommend either requesting that Tim Jones come into the commission and discuss how this can be fixed, or just issue an enforcement order for what he's done for that specific condition on the order of conditions. And Hannah, I don't know if you want to hop in too, but that's just my suggestion.
I'm in agreement with you.
I would reference the enforcement order when asking them to come in and saying that's effectively a cease and desist order.
It is,
Right,
yep,
so
yep.
that usually gets them to come in.
That's why,
We can stop working on the whole project.
Right.
which is
I think
why,
we should.
Well, I think we should, I think
If he's willing to come in and be.
I think
cooperative and work with us.
I think we should give Mr. Jones the opportunity to, make this right without having to go through
Yeah, I take that very
a
seriously. that
process.
It's his land.
Certainly
He has
have
the
that
right to do with it, what he wants.
When he has the orders, he's in the business, he knows what right and wrong is, correct? So is this,
One thing, but
did you catch me? You what?
Sometimes you're working with a lot of contractors, each person gets a little bit of information, not everyone has a whole picture.
Well, that's why someone is there. I mean, I'm in construction, right?
He's responsible for a subcontract.
I understand how
Yes.
it's done.
no, and I'm not saying he's not responsible. I'm just saying we should invite him in and give him the opportunity to make this right. Without having, because going with an enforcement order is,
Well, if we're this far off the rails, just in the tree cutting and the road cutting, the rest of the project's gonna be a lot of fun.
well, I haven't been out, have you been out there?
Yeah,
So do you know how far off the rails he's gone?
just from these pictures, so.
yeah,
And I can't tell from the picture how far off the rail,
I think we should do a site visit.
because I don't know where the rail is on that picture.
I think that a combination of things needs to be done. One is inform Tim Jones that we have issues with the project as it's proceeding. Schedule a site visit with him there. And certainly ask if it's okay for Mr. Kelly to attend, as we usually do for butters who have issues. And see what his response is. If he's anything less than fully willing to cooperate with that much, then I think the enforcement order would be the next step, and make him come in and provide information as to how he could remediate the situation, inform him the project is stopped until then, to get his attention. I don't think that would be necessary, having dealt with him on a couple other projects. I think he's generally, once he's alerted to something, at least by us, has been responsive to us. I'm not saying he will be necessarily this time, but my question is, Don, did you go up the road at all when you made your one visit?
No, I didn't. I stayed on his, on this
Right.
property here.
Do we
Because I
know?
wasn't sure if I had approval to go.
Oh, you
into the
absolutely
main.
do.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
we
nice.
have the ability to go on the property at any time. There's an open order.
Okay.
We don't even need permission.
Yeah,
And we walked this last fall, correct?
Yes, sir.
yes.
Couple of times.
This is Snapshot.
I'm
Yeah,
curious
it
as
goes
to
right
how,
up to the snap.
I'm curious as if anybody in the room knows how far up the road goes. Does it go all the way up to across the crossing yet?
correct.
Yeah,
Yes,
you can see it. You
I
can-
went back there and walked all the way back.
Pretty
to see.
extensive.
You
It
can
is-
see it from the trail.
Yeah.
I've been up on the rail.
Yeah, the rail trail, I believe, is right in the back of the clearing.
Yep. you can
There's
see
gonna
it
be a
from both
basin
ends.
between the
Okay.
cul-de-sac and actually the basin is getting formed as well. So, which is actually a good sign to see if he's gonna be installing a roadway. A lot of times you have the basin going in after it's paved.
We can certainly also ask that, as a note to Hannah or whoever's helping to make notes of these things, to communicate to Tim, not Tim, Tim Jones. Is that the wetland scientist that they may have in the order of conditions is supposed to be reviewing things, has there been one hired? So we should have approved them before they started the construction. I believe that's usually in the order of conditions. So if we haven't been notified of that part even to Hannah or anybody as part of the start of the project, he's in violation there. And that we need to have a wetland scientist to confirm the other replication areas are being protected properly and other stuff is being done. So that's some point that we can make to him prior to asking him to come in and or do a site visit with us, site walk with us, where he could provide that information too. But sooner than later, I think is a good thing to do on this. Is the commission available? I am going to be out of town the next 2 Saturdays. But certainly, actually, sorry, the next 3 Saturdays. Are any commission members able to commit to a Saturday or in the next 2 to 3 weeks? for a site walk so we can propose some times and dates to Tim Jones?
I can, Mike.
Okay, Steve, anybody else?
I can't go
on
this,
the eighth.
I can't go this week, but maybe next week.
Okay, so maybe the 8th is a possibility for Steve, Don or James. I couldn't hear who was saying. Don.
Don, I can make the
Okay.
eighth.
Don,
Yeah,
so-
eight works for me.
Mike, I'd like Neil to be there if we
Yeah,
could.
yeah, certainly. I saw if the 8th works for Neil, Steve, Don, James potentially, and I know Rob, if you want to make another trip, we'll also ask. I'll work with this with Hannah tomorrow and work on some sort of note, email to Don, to Tim Jones, informing him the seriousness of this, the fact we need to get this moving on. If he is less than responsive to almost immediately, then we'll certainly notify everybody. But to propose a tentative, what time works for you, gentlemen and or ladies? You might want to attend, Ariane, if you want to make it, or Noel.
Morning, mid-morning.
Yeah, morning.
You don't have to do 8:30 in the morning as we usually do sidewalks. You can pick whatever time you want, because
8:30 is good. Get out there, get it out of the way.
certainly Tim would be available. And Don, we will,
Yep.
Mr. Kelly, we will not, sorry, not Don, our Don, Dan Kelly. We will also ask, as we often do, if it's okay to have you specifically attend the site walk. If he says no, we can't make him, but usually developers and applicants, I understand if an applicant has an abutter that has an issue, that's good for him to let them come along if we can, but we'll ask that. I assume you'll be available on the 8th at 8:30?
So, yeah.
Dan, okay. All right, if you're not, just let us know, so we won't stand around waiting for you to come out back door or whatever, but otherwise, those that you can make, we'll communicate between now and the 8th, in the next couple of days, what Tim says, and move on from there.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
You've been talking to Tim, he has a couple of spots where his erosion is flowing like.
There's water flowing through.
That we tell him to fix those now.
Mike,
not
one
wait.
last comment?
Yeah, go ahead,
No.
sure, good.
I'm gonna be around Friday afternoon. I may just stop by.
Yeah, feel free in between now and then as planned sidewalk to do that. You do have, as Neil said, it's nice if you can get the developer to say, yeah, I know you're gonna go walk the site tomorrow afternoon, that's fine. But if you don't have that permission ahead of time, you do have the right to go on site, especially if there's a potential violations. We have the right to not wait for permission to get on site if there's violation or.
Yeah, we could go on if there's an open order, we can go on.
If you want company, let me know.
Okay,
And that's, and I think, again, I think if he knows we're looking and there is the threat of an enforcement order, I think that will get his attention. And hopefully correct his behavior.
Just to add to that, I agree with Neil completely that before a strict response, we should do the site visit, and we're going to. However, the motivation behind my strict position has to do with in the year that I've sat on this board, we've had a host of projects that have more or less acted on beg forgiveness later and screw
and
it
ask
up.
permission ahead of time, you're right.
Yep.
And I think we're being tested, frankly.
Yeah, developers certainly will do that regularly. Sometimes other applicants will volunteer to help formulate documents or do other things to be helpful or not, whether we want it or not. And certainly in this case, it does look like someone who should know better, having dealt with them on a few other projects.
Well, that's the key point, Mike.
Okay,
Better.
good input, thank you.
And
All
thank
right,
you
so we're
for
moving
providing
forward on
those.
this, I guess. We don't need any motions or anything for, oh, actually, why don't we just make a motion for the site walk tentatively, just we often put site walks in the record. Not that we need permission. So I'll just make a motion to have a site walk on potentially on the Saturday, the 8th at 8:30 p.m. at, I don't know, we'll say 340 Lake Street / Snap Trail Estates site. And
Right,
I
so
guess-
move.
So moved,
Second,
Steve and Don, thank you. Neil, Steve,
aye.
Don,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Ariane.
I
By the way, Ariane, do you think you can make it or not? I didn't hear anything one way or the other. Do you
don't
know?
think I can make it on that day.
Okay. Just helpful for the other people that'll be
We'll buy
there.
you another one.
And Noel online?
Aye.
All right, okay, and Noel, do you think you might want to try the 8th or not? Just so they know to not wait or wait.
Okay, did you, this Saturday?
No, this Saturday coming up didn't work for enough people, so the 8th was the suggested date, 8:30.
Okay, I'll double check and send it in the group chat if I can make it or
Okay.
not.
Okay, great, thanks. Just helpful for the people on site. I know I'll be out of town, so I won't be back.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much, Stan.
So, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Rob.
I think, there's some people here for a couple items that I don't think made it on the agenda, because I see.
I was gonna say nothing else is on the agenda except the minutes, so I was gonna see if there's anybody still in the room because we have
So
last meeting.
we have Steve here for 15 Bellstone Drive.
Bellstone Drive.
What was it? 19 Bellstone Drive, sorry. And that's for an enforcement order.
Yep.
Another gentleman, I'm not sure if you're here.
I'm learning the process.
Okay.
The process is my big deal because I live right there, but I'm
Okay.
also taking everything in, learning.
Understood. The other two, I think, Dale and Angela are here for.
I hadn't forgotten Angela. I was gonna ask, but if you had an update for us, because that was on the previous discussion, didn't make it officially on the agenda because it wasn't really an agenda item before, but an update was also on my notes here to see if, or Mr. Wilson was in the room again, because I know he's been active and coming in to look for updates on his concerns in the same area. So why don't we take, Angela, since you've been online for so long, thank you very much for being patient. Why don't we take you first, and then we will take care of the Bellstone Drive property in one moment. So Angela, do you have an update for us?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to make it quick. I know it's getting late. For the record, Angela Conforti on behalf of South Center Realty LLC, and also on the call with me is Dale McKinnon from Garrier and Hellman. So as you remember, we've been chasing this mystery groundwater pipe that's outletting to Parcel C. I would be happy to share my screen to give the commission a visual of
I think Kaya can do that, I believe. Somebody's been sharing screens before. I thought it was you.
I did it.
Oh,
okay.
I did.
So I'm gonna go here, right?
There you go. Okay.
Okay, so just to orient ourselves, where's my, you guys see what I'm seeing?
Yep.
Okay, so just to orient ourselves, like I said, here's parcel C. This is lot 55 right here is 26 Candlelight. That's where Tom Wilson lives. I assume he's there, but if he's not, then this is his lot. So this would be the low side of parcel C down here. So the pipe actually starts, where's the sheet for, it's not really, why can't I find it? Oh, here we go. Sorry. So the pipe we found is back here behind lot 47 and 48, Dale, or was it 46 and 47?
46.
46 and 47. Okay. So the pipe outlet is somewhere in this area. We've
Is that
got
the base of the hill? Is that the base of the hill, kind of? Doesn't it slope down pretty steep there?
It does. Yeah, and that pipe is right at the bottom.
Okay.
Like the toe of the slope.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
And then it flows across parcel C towards the other side.
Across
That's
parcel
low
C
point,
to the
yeah.
low side. Yeah. And flood's been flooding those rain gardens out a little bit. Or not a little bit. I stand corrected. So anyway, so the pipe outlet's here, floods down here. We traced the pipe from the camera up to, these plan sheets are all out of order. I'm sorry. Okay. Back here, lot 59 actually was the same sheet I was just showing you. So the pipe goes from here, and then the source is somewhere in this area, Dale?
Yes, that's
Back
Is
of
it-
lot 59, sorry.
Is it an opening or a hole in the ground, or what does the pipe at that end have at it?
There is a catch basin back there that was installed, but there's also a sub drain that connects to that system and that pipe that connects to the PVC pipe. So that's where the groundwater is coming from.
We believe it's a sub-drain that was put in for the installation of the sewer main that goes cross-country in that area and could be connected, and is also connected to some foundation drains along that pipe. So we've basically decided that we cannot stop that flow, afraid that it would create groundwater issues up in those properties up in that area. So we've determined that we had to allow that to continue to drain towards parcel C.
Was that approved on a set
This
of
pipe's
plans?
not on any plans. This pipe was not permitted, correct?
Correct.
And do we know when it was installed?
If it was installed when that sewer line was going in, I'm gonna guess somewhere around 2015-ish. Maybe even later than that,
But when
2017.
those houses were going in at 59, 58, and 1, and wherever the areas are they're draining, as well as the foundations. I assume the foundations that you're referring to, Dale, are in those houses around that area?
That's
Okay.
correct.
So
Yes.
when Fafford was putting this in, assuming Fafford was doing the work then, they put a bunch of foundation drains and potentially back drains in the yard to get the high, whatever would collect on the ground, as well as potentially a sub pipe for.
Yeah,
because
so-
it hooks
so-
up to the sewer line. But
Yeah,
it
we
could
believe
be-
it's a sub-drain coming from the sewer line.
When you say a sub drain, could you explain what you mean by that, Dale?
A perforated pipe that allows the groundwater to enter into the pipe.
But you said sewer line in conjunction with that.
Well, alongside the construction of the sewer line would be used to, they put crushed stone in along the line of the sewer line, and this is probably connected to the allowing the water that's following that sewer line to drain out, not the sewer pipe,
Right.
but just the groundwater around the sewer pipe.
I hadn't been aware that that was a standard thing. Is that unusual to have that secondary drainage line to relieve the water pressure outside of the pipe? Or
Yeah,
is it
I
only a
don't think,
situation-
I don't think it was a parallel pipe. I just believe that it's in connection with the groundwater. There's a wetland up in that area, and I think that the groundwater may have been too high. We're not sure. There's nobody that's still involved with the company that goes back to that time period that we could determine exactly how or why this pipe was installed.
And where's the wetlands that you're referring to, near plot 1, parcel 1 there, or? off the plan?
It's further to above lot 1. Can that do you have a plan that shows anything above there, Angela?
Where are you trying to go?
To the right of plot 1, that's right there on Northern Lights Way,
Oh,
to the right of it. If that's where the wetlands is. What I'm
yeah.
wondering
Well,
is, good.
over here. Oh, this is what you're talking about, Dale.
Oh, is
Right
that the
here.
way? Oh, okay, that's quite a ways away. If it was.
I
So,
can't see.
We think
Oh, yeah.
it's in connection with this sewer line. There's sewer
Yeah.
easement right here.
Oh, that's sewer easement, okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Uh,
So the end of this drain pipe is connected to, or not really connected. It's just sitting in that gravel to collect the groundwater from
But
the
it's
sewer.
adding to the flow, whether it goes all the way to the wetlands and relieves that directly and illegally probably, to drain it down that way to get it away from back in number 11, for example, or something was done, who knows? But as you're saying, you can't stop that because then that would negatively impact all those people up there potentially.
Correct.
But of course, the distress is now caused by another, down to other people, property owners, and there's no immediate engineering relief plan that could be provided at the bottom of Basin C to make the situation better with the flooded rain gardens and backyards for the people down there.
Well, that's what we're here to discuss. So Dale put together this plan because which is for an earth berm to be constructed on, again, here to orient ourselves, here's Tom Wilson's property at 26 Candlelight. So if this earth berm here, because the water's coming in from that area of lot 47,
The higher
and it's flooding down into these rain gardens, but it's infiltrating.
You froze up,
Oh,
Angela. Hold on.
perfect. Time for me to interject. Mike,
Yes,
so first of all, I don't think that we should have, people discussing projects like this without being on the agenda first.
okay.
And second, the pipe kind of reminds me of a certain under drain that went beneath rain gardens and interconnected to all the other houses that was at the beginning of the application.
Okay, good point. So yeah, to answer your first point, I thought this was going to be a little more brief and informational, but it may look like this is going to rise to the level of needing to get on an agenda item and make sure the abutters know and have a chance to hear certainly any planned proposals that might impact them. So I think that without proceeding further, but having seen the scope of what you've been able to do and looked into, I think this is worthy of us putting on the agenda. However, we would need to have you request that be the case, since I don't know Mr. Wilson would be doing that. Are you willing to put yourselves on the request for agenda just so we can discuss this in the right format?
Is Angela back online?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm here. Yep.
So
Okay.
you kind of froze up, so we wanted to make sure you heard.
Oh
what-
yeah. No, so yes, please, we would like to be put on the agenda to discuss.
Okay,
this,
excellent.
yes.
I think that unless the commission has any other thoughts, that Ariane's suggestion is a good one. We should get this put on the agenda for, I think we have the space for the 12th, but if that becomes an issue, we'll let you know. But I see if any of the commission members have any other input before we consider doing this. No? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. I'll accept a motion. Well, no, until we receive a notice of intent, I don't think we can actually put it on the agenda. So since this was just an informational hearing thing, that I think what we need to do is
Well,
ask
we can
Angela
put
to go ahead.
informational things on the agenda.
Beg your pardon?
We can put informational things on the agenda.
I think that they want to actually make this a notice of intent, or do you not think you're rising to that level yet?
Well, I guess that's another procedural, or that's a procedural issue that we could discuss, or I could discuss offline with Hannah and Rob. I don't know if, I mean, it does get into the no disturb here.
Right.
See the no disturb.
I-
But I don't know if we could achieve this because it's just an earth berm adjacent to an isolated wetland. Maybe it could be done under an enforcement order that the commission issues. It's
I think of my
Your
preference is to
decision.
do enforcement last as a resort. It's not a tool that we would like to pull out of the,
Who would we enforce it against?
yeah, it's,
Company's not responding.
yeah, and the level enforcement, I think.
Oh, it is the company.
You could issue an enforcement
the
order on the
company.
property owner for an unpermitted discharge to an isolated wetland.
But in the case, get the property owner who is property owner of lot number 1, I mean.
No, it would be South Center Realty. That's where the pipe's outletting on South Center Realty's property. It's a Fafford entity.
Yeah, okay. What's the pleasure of the commission? You think we want to try to get a notice of intent? I don't think informational will do it. I think that we need to actually stop having informational stuff and move to something more substantive with potential resolution, since we
Sure.
appear to have some suggestions for a potential resolution.
Yeah, I would see this as a new project that would need a filing.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, Angela, I think if you could work with Hannah to put in an application for a project notice of intent, or I don't think an ANRAD would be, not an ANRAD. What's the term we're looking for, Neil? Determination of applicability.
RDA.
RDA. I think NOI versus RDA, right, Neil?
Well, we can see right here that they're gonna be in the notice.
Yeah, I think an RDA would come back with a,
Yes.
with a.
You need to go ahead,
yes.
yeah.
So,
A notice of intent.
having to go that, I think that step, it's not, I don't think it's unclear that they're within, they're well within our jurisdiction, so.
Yeah, okay.
There's an order for the project currently, right?
that it's got a certificate of compliance already.
Okay, never mind.
And I
Alright.
believe,
We're not,
correct me
we're
if I'm
not in
wrong.
amendments. We're not in amendment.
That
land.
was what I was
No,
going to
no.
recommend.
No, we're out of amendment land.
Yep.
Yes.
And my other question was, did we refund all the funds that were being held in escrow?
Yeah, it was a surety and it was released. Yes.
Right, okay, that's why I just make sure, because the financial question was asked before, at some point in time. Anyway, okay, so, yeah, I think moving forward with the notice of intent request through Hannah, and we'll get it on the agenda once we've received it. But until we get a notice of intent request, we don't generally put it on the agenda, but we'll continue to move forward. And any other development of plans or firming up things with Dale as you want to do, certainly would be a good thing to have, present as much information to us as part of the NOI request. That'd be great.
We'll start pulling it together.
Okay. All right. Is anyone there from 19 Bellstone still there in the room?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela and Dale. You don't need to hang on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
All right. So could you come up, if you're not already at the table, I can't see on the camera there, and identify yourself for the record again for us?
Yeah, my name's Steve Hamilton. I live at 19 Bellstone Drive. And I'm here, because I talked to Robert. Robert mentioned come in and I do have a violation against me. And just want to see where I'm at with this, that's all.
Yeah, I can give a quick update. So this isn't anything I think the commission should be making any motions on tonight. This was more specifically for an update, because I think somebody brought this up at the last, there were a couple items that were brought up at the last commission meeting regarding there's a plethora of drainage issues going on in town. One of them is on Bellstone Drive. So an enforcement order was put on Steve's property regarding, I think there's some drainage coming off the backside of his property. Went out there with DPW this, I think it was last week.
Yeah,
2 weeks
rain
ago.
was raining too, so that was pretty key.
Yeah, which it was during one of the rainstorms, and Steve's engineer that he has hired was out there with us as well. There's what appears to be a drainage easement along the rear of the property, currently trying to figure out if that's owned by the town or not, or if that easement is even in existence. There's different plans floating around of what's recorded in the Mass Land Record. So this is a subdivision from, I believe, 1998, I think is when it was.
The house was built in 93.
Okay, it was even before then. So records are a little bit tricky, to say the least. So there's some homework that's going on with that. Additionally, similar to what's going on with 1052 South Main Street, DPW has engaged an engineer to look at the overarching drainage issues associated with Bellstone Drive. So essentially, the enforcement order, I think that there's a fair amount of information that's needed, even on the town side, regarding this drainage easement that runs along the rear of Steve's property, and there's 3 other properties right next to him that's affected by this potential drainage easement. So with that, like I said, I don't think that the commission necessarily should act on anything. And I don't think.
Well, what about the construction that's taken, the evidence that we've had of construction that's been taking place on the property within the well?
Regarding the filling of the lawn is out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Building and constructing and putting in sonotubes and building a deck in the resource area.
There's no deck.
Okay, so I know that that's another situation, which it sounds like the work is seized for anything that's going on behind the house. What I'm just referring to is that right now, it seems like with DPW and this property previously, there's trying to figure out a conveyance mechanism. So as far as the work being done and filling in, this was enforcement order was put in before I was involved. I'm just speaking to the drainage issues.
Well, they're not part of, that's not why the enforcement order exists.
Gotcha.
So the enforcement order exists for the work that was done within a resource area.
Sure. Right. Okay.
I mean, fixing the drainage could be, maybe some of that was done to remediate a drainage issue.
Right. Yeah.
We don't know. But it was the construction and the alteration of a resource area, which is why we have the enforcement.
I mean, the reason I did that, because the water was coming into my house, and there's an issue there, there's a swale between 17 and 19 Bellstone, and it goes down to that big drain that the DPW put in. That the water has no place to go between the two properties, that's why it goes in between the two properties. So I kind of tried to fix that a little bit. That's what I was trying to do.
How would that fix it?
Huh?
You're filling in the wetland. If you got a problem with water coming from the wetland going between the houses, I walked this. So,
No, yeah.
so how is filling in the wetland partially going to stop
I was
that?
just trying to bring it down more in between the two properties, that's all, because my whole back of my property was all a big swamp. That's all, because it's coming down off South Main, and there's a lot of water coming down there. I don't know where it's coming from, and it's just a lot of water.
This is the one that has the gravel easement running between where I scraped away the,
Right.
behind the houses.
And the town has made attempts by running pipes and putting in a catch basin and making some other attempts to kind of deal with, we understand there are drainage issues there.
There's always kind of dealing with it, which is the issue, because it's not a permanent solution. And it's not gonna help your property in the end, like, it's just kind of a basic for now.
The lady that, excuse me, sir, that came in, one of the complaints is your sump pump pipe is adding water to her property.
Well, my sump pump goes 24/7 because of all the water coming down.
And where does the outlet of that pipe go?
Goes down into the front of my front of my yard, right to the left side of my leaching field. And it goes out to that drain that you get.
Pipe goes all the way to the drain.
No.
It stops about 20 feet off the house.
30, 40 feet off the house, yeah.
And when that water outflows from that pipe, where does it go?
It goes down to that corner of my yard and goes out to that drain, which is that's what the
It
drain.
runs down into the swale between the two properties to that
Right.
drain.
I mean, that's what. I get it. I don't know where else the water can go if it doesn't go down that little swale.
Yeah, but if it impacts negatively another person's property, in this case, the lady who butts you next door, you can't make their situation worse to make yours better. That's not permitted.
So what am I supposed to do with my cell phone?
Well, working with the
You
town,
can't give it to your neighbor. You can't.
Wait, I'm not giving any, okay. I mean, everybody has a sump pump on that side of the street, that's why I don't understand. You know,
well, because there's been documented evidence that shows that your sump pump in this case, by outflowing where it does further up in the yard than right down to the street, is
You actually see the pipe on Google Maps.
negatively impacting.
I mean, this drainage problem kind of sounds like something for the Clean Water Infrastructure Act funding. Yeah. More than just getting an excavator out and throwing a pipe down and putting the water somewhere else, because the water has to go somewhere.
right.
So I think we need like an area-wide or town-wide evaluation and make grant money together. DPW wants to go that way.
But I think we based that on the original order on, and Mr. Chair, correct me if I'm wrong, on the evidence presented from
The butter, who's late.
Mike?
DPW.
No, building.
Oh, Tim
Tim.
Icardi.
No,
Sorry.
that was Ruth Allen. The other one.
The other who?
That was the construction. Okay, my bad.
Tim
Sorry.
McCarty was a part of both of these
Right.
enforcement orders,
Yeah.
in different
I
capacities.
remember he specifically came in and said, here's what I saw. I met with the property owner.
I think he did that on both occasions.
My opinion, when I think I came back, that while I do believe 19 is contributing water 217 side yard. If you were to eliminate that, there's still a water issue behind the properties.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was kind of getting at is with that drainage easement that runs along the back. That's where a lot of water is contributing to a lot of the properties on that side of the road. So,
I saw another.
Well, I think I'd rather, when we reschedule this, which we will, that we have Tim available because it was, I'm confused about, what was presented at that time for this order, because we're again, unscheduled, we're not prepared.
Okay.
yeah,
I just came in just to
Yep.
see where I was at. That's all.
I think that would be extremely helpful if Tim could.
Yeah, because he was the one that was out there on the ground and he had the photos. And again, I think before we go down that road, we need to know what we're talking about. I don't feel like I know what I'm talking about right now, so.
Yeah, I think there's some information that I would like to double check myself.
Okay.
So do we want to make this an agenda item as we did the last? To keep it on the record, because just informational like we are now, we can do a certain amount, but if we need to take action, we should have it on the agenda.
Right, and it will give us time to,
Yeah, there's not a rush. You can put it for the 26th. I'm not pushing to rush anything.
yeah, no, because we need, like I said, we need to get Tim here and we need to get our,
And it sounds like
have the order and have the evidence that we had for the order with us so that we can reference it and work through it properly.
right. And as people in the room have suggested, it seems like there's two issues: the water flow behind all those properties, which is infiltrating their backyards and being dealt with in different ways, and negatively impacting, which may be a larger town-wide drainage issue, as Ariane mentioned, and things that we need to have a bigger scope, but it's also much longer term and relief not provided immediately. And then we have the short term, the enforcement order, which is recognizing that there's a negative impact on one person's property, at least partially caused by some of the stuff that's being done to relieve issues that that person is having on their other property. And that's the area of the enforcement order I think that we'll find is mostly focused on. So while we open the hearing, my question, if we open a hearing for this particular issue, how do we want to address that? Do we, recognizing it's short-term enforcement order follow-up, dealing with that, and potentially a short-term solution to the two property owners, which may be an engineer coming in and saying, you got to connect it to the town water drain line in the front of the property if you get permission from the DPW to do that, which they may not be willing to do because that starts a precedent with everybody wanting to do that probably in that area and overloading the system. Or do we keep it a bigger picture issue or a combination or a split, two different hearings? The back issue with townwide proceeding with that if we feel it's in our purview.
Well, I would say that part's DPW. I mean, it's gonna be a whole town, like.
But if DPW is to start, perhaps, Ariane, I'm not opening up to the whole town, just this part of the town for now, because the DPW probably can't handle a huge project to look at all the resources and strain.
Well, I think we're getting way off track on this specific issue and any wide look at drainage and wetlands and, climate change and increase in rainfall, which I don't know that we've actually documented that the town has increased significantly the rainfall in the last 15 years. You've documented that? You did? Okay.
I can speak to that after if you would like.
Sure.
All right, well,
I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, after we've done this. Got some good news for the commission. so.
But that's more about the town needs to address that. That's kind of out of our wheelhouse. We can certainly, be a part of that, but it's certainly not ours to drive the bus.
And I would say to the person receiving the enforcement order, if he's concerned about that you should go to DPW and talk to them about the drainage issues. And that will handle the enforcement issues, wetlands.
Potentially, depending on DPW's response, may not. So if we are going to want to put this on an agenda as a notice of intent or follow-up to enforcement order, I'm looking for some guidance on how to do that, since the applicant would probably have to be either 19 or 17 Bellstone. And
An enforcement order, so I think it needs to be on the agenda. So it's like a response to enforcement order.
say that again, Ariane, you faded
There'd be a
out.
public hearing on the enforcement order, Mike.
Okay, yeah, so if we can have a motion to have that come from someone there for the 12th, I'm sorry, the 26th.
This is Tuesday, the 11th. Right?
Wait, pardon?
Due to appear in front the 11th.
The 11th, okay.
All right, so Ariane made the motion, that's good for,
Can we do it early? No.
and how, Neil, phrase that again for the record, enforcement order hearing violation hearing. Which we I don't think ever have had on the agenda.
Right.
Won't be in violation for us having a meeting after that time.
Okay. Okay.
All right, and so I've got a motion from Ariane, second.
Second, James.
James, thank you. All right, one more roll call, and I think we might be done tonight. Neil,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Noella, online, shaking things up a little,
Aye.
and Ariane in person,
Aye.
and Michael here and online, aye. Unanimous vote, so that'll be the 26th at 7 p.m. potentially for start time. And I would say the minutes was the last, thank you very much.
Thank you. Guys.
Appreciate your time.
Girls.
And so I will say the minutes were the last thing on there, but I didn't see them in the portal. Were they sent separately? Or do we not have any minutes tonight?
There were no minutes.
I didn't see anything. Okay, that's fine. We're pretty well caught up, so I'm not worried about being up by. All right, if anybody on the commission has any other new information or exciting news to share, whatever, now's the time to do it. If not, at 9:52, we'll accept a motion to close the meeting and adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Don, thank you. Second,
Aye.
come on, Neil, I gotta do a roll call for the record. Neil,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Ariane,
Aye.
and Noel online,
Adjourn, but.
Aye.
and Mike online. Aye. Unanimous. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Kaya. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you,
Thanks, Mike.
All right.
Good night.
Have a great night, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah.